countdown begins for the markets with meticulous research and analysis designed to help you capitalize on the trading day. Beaming live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studio.
Good morning. You're with us here on a fresh new edition of Bazaar Morning Call. We are coming to you live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I mean, it's been a tense night, a long night. We've been, of course, on it, getting you the latest updates, accurate updates, more importantly. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleagues Surabhi and Nigel here in the studios. Guys, good morning. And Shireen is with us from the Delhi studio. Shireen, of course, has been with you since 6 in the morning. Shireen, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Yes, nothing to compare with what is going on at the border at this point in time. And of course, our thoughts and prayers with our armed forces, because they're really on the battlefront, ensuring that India and Indian citizens stay safe. But again, for the benefit of our viewers, we are only going to be putting out verified information here on CNBC TV18, credible information that has been fact-checked, and our due diligence is underway, because this is as much a narrative, a war, and a disinformation war at this point in time. But of course, lots of fast-paced developments have taken place overnight. What we now do have a confirmation on from the military establishment is that about 45 to 50 Pakistani drones have been brought down by the Indian air defense system, between Bhuj to Leh. So it's along northern and western regions that we've actually seen Pakistani attacks coming in via drones. And remember, this is the new warfare. This is the new style of warfare. You're seeing it playing out in the Russia-Ukraine war as well. So 45 to 50 drones, this has now been confirmed by the Indian military establishment, were taken down from Ladakh to Bhuj overnight. Of course, it's also important to point out for our viewers that there continues to be intense activity, intense firing along the line of control. Our colleague Ishan Bani there was reporting from what is happening in Jammu, what is happening in Poonch, Rajouri, and those continue to be areas where the brunt of the military activity is being faced at this point in time. But of course, we will, through the course of the day, try and pass through everything that's going on. There is a Ministry of Defense briefing that is expected to happen as well. We don't have a confirmation of the time, but we do know that there will be a briefing that will take place in a short while from now, and that will perhaps lay out what has happened and what has transpired overnight. Also important commentary coming in. The US Vice President J.D. Vance, in an interview in response to the question on India and Pakistan, has said that, look, we hope for de-escalation, but the US does not intend to, will not get involved in this. Now, what that means behind the scenes, we also know that Marco Rubio has been speaking with his counterpart here, Minister Jaishankar. So that's going to be important. We also know that yesterday, the Saudi MOS for Foreign Affairs was here in India, met with Jaishankar, met with the Prime Minister as well. So that will be an important diplomatic back channel outreach to watch for as well. The Prime Minister, by the way, has also cancelled his foreign visits. He was supposed to travel between the 13th and the 17th. That visit, we are given to understand, now stands cancelled. So there is a lot to put together, and we will, of course, piece these developments for you through the course of the day.
Absolutely, Shireen. Let's just take a quick look at the GIFT Nifty for those of you who are sort of waking up to this all this news flow. And I think very, very important context there being provided by Shireen, and we'll keep going back to her. 230 points in the morning. We saw about a 350 odd point cut as well. And I think, as Shireen said, I mean, this is, of course, nothing compared to what's going on at the border, but really unfortunate that, while there is an actual fight at the border, there is a fight against all these, all this spurious information, misinformation, which I think one has to constantly battle as well. I mean, so much stuff from last night. And we've been for the last hour or so putting out exactly that. Stuff which is not true, stuff which you should not go with. And essentially what is really happening. So I think it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It is the new information age. And I think we will hear more from the government as well in that briefing in a little bit from now. So that is the overall picture. I think we have Nilesh Shah, who's with us now. Nilesh, of course, is with Kotak Mutual Fund. Nilesh bhai, good morning. Great to have you with us here. Prashant this side. I mean, your first thoughts, Nilesh, by what you've seen overnight, the developments, and what do you make of it?
So after the terrorist incident at Pahalgam, did India had any choice? For decades, Pakistan have been resorting to terrorism as official policy, and we were tolerating them. Even in the dear city of Mumbai, when there was an attack, we didn't respond. So as a citizen, you feel happy that finally we are teaching a lesson. And I hope and pray that Pakistan learns from their mistake.
Nilesh, hi, morning. Thank you so much for joining us early. Just allow me a moment, giving a little, some more cues to our viewers. We've already told you about the GIFT Nifty. Yesterday, by the way, all of this started, the market had started showing that decline in the afternoon itself, and then the bigger fall happened after 2:45. And that showed up in both the currency markets and the equity markets. Despite that, by the way, the net figure by the end of the day from the FPIs was still positive 2,008 crores. And to be fair, in this entire period, right from the 22nd of April, they've remained on the buying side as far as the Indian market goes. We'll see if that changes and what that implies. But anyway, that's the number from yesterday. One more point on currency, just to remind you that we have to look at the currency opening as well carefully, because yesterday this, like I said, showed up in the currency markets in a big way. The rupee ended down 1%, but if you look at the morning high, the rupee had actually appreciated to as high as 84.25 thereabouts. So from that level, the decline was even greater. Let's see, how we deal with some of these issues. And finally, very quickly, the business community has started responding as well. We had statements from the Mahindra Group yesterday. We had statements from Mr. Mukesh Ambani yesterday, and both of those groups pledging their own support in whatever way possible. There we go. We have the Mr. Ambani statement there on the screen as well. Standing in solidarity with our armed forces. Nilesh, so this is a fast-moving situation, fast-developing situation. For investors who are watching this, what would your advice be, at least at this point in time?
Surbi, as you very correctly mentioned, this is fast-developing situation. Markets will react as events happen. We don't have experience of 62, 65, and 71 war, but we do have experience of 99 conflict. Somewhere in March 99, when it was discovered that Pakistani soldiers are occupying our territories, markets started correcting in anticipation of a conflict, in anticipation of a war. Overall market came down about 15%. Then India responsibly stated that we will not cross LOC. Market started discounting limited conflict. And before the first shot was fired on 3rd May 1999, market had recovered about 8% of the losses. Throughout the conflict between 3rd May 1999 to 26 July 1999, market continued to rise, partly driven by valuation and partly driven by limitedness of the conflict. So clearly, events will drive the market. The only submission to investor will be, don't fall to the propaganda, don't fall to the disinformation. Follow your asset allocation dharma. Our long-term growth story remains fairly intact. And if this war is limited to limited conflict, then probably every correction is a great opportunity to buy.
Yes, and Nilesh, once again, appreciate you joining us here. As you pointed out, we need to be very, very careful about the disinformation war that is currently underway. And we've been putting out, as you can see, flashing on our screens, our colleagues have been reporting as well on the many false claims that have now been debunked. But Nilesh, speaking of events as well, and an important event that's going to take place later today is a meeting of the IMF. And yesterday, in fact, the Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri, made it very clear that the Indian representative at the IMF, Parmeswaran and Iyer will, of course, oppose tooth and nail any further grants to Pakistan. But Vikram Misri also using the opportunity to call out other nations and say, look, do you really intend to support terror activities and terror nation? So from an economic and for Pakistan, IMF and World Bank aid and grants and loans are significant from their economic futures point of view. So in addition to, of course, what is happening on the border, etc., some of these other important developments, I also pointed out diplomatic back channel conversations. The Saudi MOS for Foreign Affairs here in India met with both the Prime Minister as well as the Foreign Minister. What else will you be looking at in terms of being able to piece this together, Nilesh?
So, Shireen, if you remember, on 26 July 1999, Monday morning, there was an announcement from White House where President Bill Clinton and Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif announced de-escalation, Pakistan vacating the heights of Kargil, Dras and Batalik, whichever they were occupying. Majority were already captured by India. It was a combination of military attack by India, military movement by India, and finally Pakistan realizing with America's intervention that in today's day and age, this kind of operation will not be sustainable. So it was a combination of diplomatic and military combined, which resulted into successful closure. Similarly, here also we need all the global allies to come together and pursue Pakistan that this policy of terrorism, this policy of 1,000 cuts bleeding is not appropriate. If we can get a diplomatic solution, undoubtedly it is good. And we will need all the allies to come together. But at the same time, we'll have to keep on also putting pressure in terms of our non-escalatory responses so that finally Pakistan realizes the error of pursuing the policy of terrorism.
Yes, and that certainly is the hope. But going by previous instances and past history, that is not certainly something that we've seen play out. So as you point out, it will be important to see what kind of pressure is exerted on Pakistan at this point in time. Of course, we've also seen that comment coming in from the US Vice President J.D. Vance saying that, look, it's between India and Pakistan. The US really has no role to play. But separately, we also know that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has been in conversation with Jaishankar as well as Ajit Doval. So it cannot be hands-off approach. But Nilesh, from the market's point of view, and of course, we will wait to see how all of this plays out. What should investors do at this point in time? There is, of course, this immediate situation to contend with, but there are many other developments that have taken place and are likely to take place, especially when we talk about trade, etc. How much of this now becomes an overhang on that?
So, today Indian economy is truly oasis in the global desert. Thanks to rupee appreciation, we overtook Japan to become fourth largest economy. Certainly, over next couple of years, we'll become third largest economy. The Indo-UK FTA is a win-win situation for both India and UK. It will allow us to compete in areas like, for example, ready-made garments and electronic components, where we were not as effective earlier. If Indo-UK FTA is harbinger to what's going to happen between Indo-EU and Indo-US, then it does give serious shot to China plus one opportunity for Indian manufacturing sector. If we look at near term, the March 25 quarterly results so far has come ahead of expectation. Good results come first, bad results come little later. But overall, the March 25 quarterly results are well ahead of expectations so far. More importantly, foreign portfolio investors have started buying. They became buyer in the month of March from passive side. April was largely passive and little bit active. But in the month of May, we believe it is more driven by active investors. It's a vote of confidence on Indian economy and Indian market, despite this kind of geopolitical situation. So I will say today, Indian markets, subject to escalation of the situation, does provide great opportunity for investors from fundamental point of view as well as from the flow point of view.
No, I think very well summarized, Nilesh. Just a quick point, and I just want to quickly emphasize that quote from J.D. Vance, and the graphic will come up. We've been highlighting that since the morning. If you think about it, it's quite incredible. I think Nilesh also earlier mentioned, the 99 Kargil war and how that sort of came off. It was a mix of escalating to de-escalate, military side, but there was also diplomatic efforts, which the US also sort of stepped in. So in that context, what we are seeing now is in line with, this America first and almost an isolationist kind of a policy, which we are seeing, a more multilateral world, individualistic in that sense. And J.D. Vance, I mean, if you've got to go online and watch that sound clip as well. And he basically saying that, well, it's not a problem. We won't get into the middle of it. Of course, we don't want it. We'd urge both sides to de-escalate as quickly as possible, but we will kind of stay out of it. So this is the other sort of angle of, how different things are compared to what we're used to over the last 50, 55 years or so, post-World War II. The other bit, of course, is the Saudi issue, the Saudi bit, right? I mean, what Shireen was talking about earlier, which is the fact that the Saudi minister was here. He met Dr. Jaishankar. And I think Mr. Mistry, the Foreign Secretary, in that briefing yesterday evening did mention that meeting has taken place, but he briefed the media once he has more details in terms of what happened. And that is important because, Saudi Arabia is one of the largest donors, largest funders of Pakistan. I mean, the common joke is, and I'm saying it, and I'm not saying it new. It's not nothing new. It's a joke made by many Pakistanis themselves that any prime minister in that country, a new leader when he's elected in Pakistan, they go to the Middle East first. I mean, that's the first trip that they will make. It's usually cloaked under the veil that they're going to do Umrah. But actually what they're doing is they're going to meet the Saudi leaders, leaders in the UAE, etc., and they are basically asking for money. In that context, this meeting with the picture is up on your screen, Dr. Jaishankar meeting with the Saudi minister is significant in terms of leverage that we can use to kind of sort of pressurize and put pressure on Pakistan. Nilesh, I don't know if you have any thoughts on both these aspects.
So, one, clearly, Saudi relationship is very, very important. They are one of the largest supplier of crude. And over the years, our relationship has grown strong. In the entire Middle East, millions of Indians work and send remittances, and they benefit from our labor as well as intelligence. This relationship has grown stronger over the years. And clearly, while we pursue the military side, we should also pursue the diplomatic side to obtain desired results. And what a swing in America. In 1971 war with Pakistan, they had sent their dreaded Sixth Fleet to the Bay of Bengal. And today they are saying that, look, it's not our job to intervene. We just hope and pray. And we will use diplomatic means to ensure that cool heads prevail in India and Pakistan. That's a significant change in US behavior.
Well, Nilesh, good morning and good to see you in this morning. Nigel on this side. Nilesh, matter of pride, right? That our armed forces are protecting us so that more than 100 crore Indians can go on with life. It's a matter of pride and salute to all of them. But getting back to the markets, as you said, the FI flows have started trickling in, which is good news, right? And nearly around 9 out of 10 instances in the past, when India and Pakistan have gone into battle, the FI flows actually have stayed positive, which is a good sign. What about the domestic liquidity? Because now they are a larger player in this market. Could you give us a rough number? What is the domestic liquidity that mutual funds are sitting on? Because that could be the firepower that's needed in the days to come.
There are three pockets of domestic liquidity with mutual funds. The first is the cash which we keep to manage day-to-day redemptions. On an average, that is roughly about 5% of our equity funds AUM. So including equity and hybrid will have about 40 lakh crore. 5% of the same give and take will be about 2 lakh crore. If market continues to become cheap, attractive to invest, we can reduce this cash balance significantly. The second is what we call as asset allocation fund. In those funds, we can buy equity if market becomes cheaper. We can sell if market becomes expensive. This is combination of asset allocation and balance advantage fund. Today, roughly based on where our equity allocation is and tomorrow where it could be if market falls, that number will be roughly about 70,000 crore. So about 2,70,000 crore is the cash in hand to buy in a falling market, in a cheaper market. Now, please remember, as a fund manager, my job is to buy at the best possible price and at the best possible valuation. If I see a desperate seller, I'm not going to give exit to them. I will lower the prices as much as possible so that I can get it at the cheapest possible price. The third is the SIP flows. Every month, thanks to the effort of our mutual fund distributors, roughly about 26,000 crore worth of flows comes. And that adds into this kitty. If we assume over next 12 months, 26,000 into 12, roughly about 3 lakh crore kind of flows will come from SIP. And most of this SIP, as of today, looks like will sustain. So there is enough liquidity with domestic investors led by mutual fund to buy into a falling market. But as I mentioned, our job is not to give exit to desperate sellers and maintain prices. We will buy at a lower level. And once that selling is over, market will bounce back.
Nilesh, I'm glad you mentioned that, and coincidentally today is the monthly MF data as well. We're expecting flows to come in. Just leave us with some rough estimates, because while the SIP book has been steady and that gives you all the firepower, what's also a reality is that last year Diwali flows were almost 40,000 crores net, equity flows that were coming into the system. That number dwindled down to, I think, 27,000 crores as of the last number. Your expectations today?
So, Surbhi, earlier, FPIs used to be driver of the market. Their buying will pull the market up. Their selling will pull the market down. Now, that has shifted to retail investors. They have been regularly investing via SIP, but through lump sum buying or selling, they are also averaging and profit booking. Whenever markets have risen thanks to FPI buying, retail investors have booked profit. And whenever they have come to sell desperately, last time was on election result day, they have come aggressively to buy. So there is a fair amount of balancing done by retail investors. Kudos to their maturity. They are truly following the dictum, buy low, sell high.
All right, Nilesh, thank you very much for that. Appreciate you joining us today morning. And we'll be in touch for future conversations as well. Let's quickly go across to Parikshit for the latest on the entire situation. Parikshit?
Yes, there were very intense operations between India and Pakistan between 8:30 p.m. last night and about 12:30 a.m. We saw multiple drones being fired by Pakistan against India at different air bases, but they were not successful in doing so. India managed to successfully bring down many Pakistani drones and also missiles in several areas. Now, we're seeing this response from Pakistan because we managed to destroy their air raid and air defense systems in Lahore. Having said that, we are going to be seeing over the next few hours very intermittent exchange of fire with Pakistan. We have been seeing a pattern over the last 2 days that it is in the evening, late in the evening, somewhere around 7:30 or 8, when Pakistan escalates things, and then things start going down around 12:31 in post midnight. Right now, how would you describe the situation? Operation Sindoor continues. We've been speaking to our sources. They're saying the military operation is very much underway. There may be periods of lull, there may be periods of intensity, but the overall level of alertness remains the same. We are using everything at our disposal to protect ourselves. We should also tell our viewers about a very important statement that came from the Pakistani Foreign Ministry last night. And they said two things. One, the world should counsel India into de-escalation, and Pakistan remains vigilant and stands for peace. This only goes on to show that possibly Pakistan is looking at a de-escalation, bringing things down over here, because what happened last night was extremely intense, and the Indian forces hit back very, very strongly. In fact, we've neutralized Pakistan air defense systems in quite a few places across the LOC. Having said that, General Munir and the Pakistani army may have a different view on things, and this, in a way, if this goes into an all-out war, it'll be General Munir's war as well. So lots of information also coming in about India shooting down F-16 planes of Pakistan, capturing a Pakistani pilot. Government sources have denied any reports of a Pakistani pilot being captured by India. As for Pakistani planes being brought down, we believe, and our sources tell us, that as the operation continues, they would not like to give minute-by-minute commentary. We're expecting a holistic update, and they will be giving us an assessment of the damages on both sides in a few hours from now.
All right, Parishit, thank you very much for that. So that's the latest, and we'll leave you to it. Parishit, of course, getting updates to you all through the night. I mean, late into the night yesterday, as reporting on, of course, what was going on. We'll take a quick commercial break here. What we're going to do is come back and we'll get you more updates from Jammu. So more coming up on the big story from last night. Stay with us.
Welcome back. With the latest on-ground developments from Jammu and Kashmir, we have Sameer Bhatt joining in from Jammu, and we have Ishan Vani joining in live from Srinagar. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining in. Ishan, let me come to you first. What is the situation on ground? Because earlier in the early part of the morning, there were reports of loud explosions, in Jammu as well. So, just tell us what's the latest.
Well, it's extremely tense. The border areas are still receiving artillery shelling and gunfire, and we're being told by eyewitnesses in Uri that they can still hear gunshots and also artillery shelling and shells being landed, shells landing actually in parts of Uri. So this tells you that it hasn't stopped even in the morning time. Generally, we have seen the last couple of days that the shelling would stop with the break of the dawn, but not the case today. It is still being bombarded. Shells are being landed in the civilian areas, and also target is to basically attack the army's installations. What we also know so far is that Kupwara's, a lot of areas in Kupwara district, which is again a frontier district, have also been hit. A lot of houses have actually caught fire. A lot of artillery shells have landed in a residential area. One lady, we are told, confirmed by the officials, has died in Uri, and the 3 others were being treated at the hospital. There's possibility of more because the government is right now scrambling with the data. They're trying to collect more data about what really transpired during overnight, because it was intense and it was hard for them to collect any data. Now, if you talk about Jammu, there was a lot of drone activity that was witnessed. Swarm drones were used to attack the Indian Army's establishments, particularly those which are critical to this Pakistan's defense and to counter Pakistan's defense. The airports, the army camps, the Northern Army Command is also in Udhampur, so there might have been a possibility, an attempt to also attack there. But that has been successfully foiled by the India's air defense system. Multiple rockets were seen flying over Jammu, and people in Jammu ran into panic because they haven't seen such kind of situation in decades, and this is now escalating on several fronts. From north to west, people had a long night, and all of these areas where people actually spend and ended up sleepless. And there have been reports of ceasefire violation continuing in Kashmir. Hospitals are running full at some places where in terms of emergency situation, in terms of ensuring that the best possible treatment and care is given to those who are injured. But India's response has been befitting, both on the line of control in Kashmir and the international border in Jammu. Jammu and Aknoor, Samba, Rajouri, Poonch, all of these areas witnessed a massive shelling overnight. There was a possibility of attack at the Srinagar airport or any other vital installation during the night. There's a blackout completely during the night time in Srinagar and other parts of Kashmir as well. And the electricity was restored during past midnight.
Got
and
it.
Now what we've been given to understand
Ishan,
that
just
though in the city...
yeah, Ishan, I'm so sorry to come in over here. Ishan, I'm very sorry to come in over here, but we have to just update our viewers on the latest statement that's come in. I think this is from the Ministry of Defence. Pakistan Armed Forces launched... Okay, this is not Ministry of Defence. This is from the Indian Army. This is the latest statement coming in. That Pakistan Armed Forces launched multiple attacks using drones and other munitions along the entire western border on the intervening night of 08 and 09 May. Pakistan troops also resorted to numerous ceasefire violations along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. The drone attacks were effectively repulsed and befitting reply was given to the CFVCs. The Indian Army remains committed to safeguarding the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the nation. All nefarious designs will be responded with force. So that is the latest statement coming in from the Army.
No, absolutely. And I think important that this is the first statement which is coming in from the Indian Army. And I think we should stick with the pictures and sort of, keep the flashes on for a while longer. I think we also have Samir Bhatt who's joining us live from Jammu. Samir, धन्यवाद हमसे जुड़ने के लिए. गुड मॉर्निंग. बताइए क्या हुआ कल रात को और अब क्या स्थिति है वहां पे?
देखिए, कल शाम को मैं अगर बात करें तो 8:30 बजे के करीब पाकिस्तान की तरफ से कई ड्रोन जो हैं मिसाइल और ड्रोन से हमला किया गया. और जिस तरह ईशान भी कह रहे थे, यहाँ अगर हम जम्मू की बात करें तो जम्मू, क्योंकि मैं खुद गया था एयरपोर्ट के नज़दीक, लाइव कर रहे थे हम, और हमने खुद देखा, अपनी आंखों से हमने देखा कि कितने ड्रोन ऊपर से उड़ रहे थे जिनको डिस्ट्रॉय किया जा रहा था. और अपनी आंखों के सामने हमने ये सारा मंजर देखा है. और उसके बाद ब्लैकआउट हो गया था, पूरा बिजली एक तरह से बंद कर दी गई थी पूरे जम्मू में. और जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन है वो हरकत में आ गई. पुलिस ने सभी लोगों को कहा कि वो घरों में चले जाए, और ये सिलसिला कई टाइम तक चलता रहा. और अभी जो खबर आ रही है, देखिए अब जो निकल के सामने आ रहा है कि जम्मू, उधमपुर, सांबा, ये तीन डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं. उसके साथ साथ नगरोटा जहाँ पे 16 कोर है, उधमपुर में नॉर्दर्न कमांड है. इसी तरह से आप देखिए अखनूर और पठानकोट, ये 6 जगहों पे पाकिस्तान की तरफ से ड्रोन अटैक किए गए थे. लेकिन हमने हमारी इंडियन आर्मी की जो एयर डिफेंस सिस्टम है उसकी वजह से तकरीबन 50 ड्रोन जो थे पाकिस्तान से जो आए थे उनको निरस्त कर दिया गया, उनको डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया गया. तो ये एक बड़ी कामयाबी हुई है. आज सुबह भी तकरीबन 4:20 को ऐसी आवाज़ें सुनाई दी, और ऐसा बहुत सारा आवाज़ें यहाँ जम्मू में सुनाई दी, और उसके बाद यहाँ ब्लैकआउट कर दिया गया. लेकिन अब बिजली की जो है इलेक्ट्रिसिटी को रेस्टोर कर दिया गया है. सीएम उमर अब्दुल्ला अब जम्मू पहुँच रहे हैं. वो थोड़ी देर में यहाँ तकरीबन 1 से 1.5 घंटे के बीच जम्मू पहुँचेंगे. उन्होंने अपने ट्वीट में कहा है कि वो जम्मू में जो हालात बने हैं, जो ड्रोन की एक्टिविटीज़ को नाकाम किया है, पाकिस्तान की ड्रोन को नाकाम किया गया इंडियन आर्मी के बाद, उसके बाद की जो सिचुएशन है उसको वो मॉनिटर करेंगे. हो सकता है वो पुंछ और राजौरी जाएँ, क्योंकि देखिए पुंछ और राजौरी में जो लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल है वहाँ बहुत ज़बरदस्त शेलिंग हो रही थी. जिस तरह ईशान भी कह रहे थे कि उड़ी सेक्टर की बात करें तो वहाँ तो है ही, लेकिन जम्मू के डिवीजन में जो पुंछ और राजौरी है वहाँ पे बहुत ज़बरदस्त फायरिंग हो रही है. बीएसएफ का यहाँ से एक और खबर जो सामने आ रही है कि बीएसएफ ने एक बड़ा इन्फिल्ट्रेशन अटेम्प्ट जो है पाकिस्तान की तरफ से उसको फॉइल कर दिया है सांबा सेक्टर में. उसके ट्वीट में जो बीएसएफ का ट्वीट आया है, जो बीएसएफ जम्मू, उसमें कहा जा रहा है कि एक ग्रुप ऑफ टेररिस्ट था जिसको जो इन्फिल्ट्रेट करना चाहते थे, लेकिन उनको वहां पे उस अटेम्प्ट को फाइल किया गया है. हालांकि अभी तक ये नहीं पता चल पा रहा है कि कितने जो आतंकवादी हैं उसमें मारे गए हैं. तो लेकिन जम्मू में इस वक्त हालात ठीक हैं. अभी सुबह का टाइम है, लेकिन शाम को जो हुआ था उससे पैनिक फैला है. जी
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. लेकिन ये ये बहुत थैंक यू वेरी मच ये बताने के लिए. और ये अच्छी बात है कि अभी आप बता रहे हैं हालात थोड़े ठीक हो गए हैं पहले से कंपेयर टू जो हमने लास्ट नाइट पूरी एक्टिविटीज़ देखी. थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर जॉइनिंग इन. We have now with us Manmohan Bahadur, retired Air Vice Marshal of the Indian Air Force, and Brigadier Anil Sharma, retired. both joining in for some perspective. Sir, thank you very much for being with us. Aviam Bahadur, if I could come to you first, sir. How should we look at this? Because this is a simultaneous attack, and as sources have confirmed now, 45 drones across our entire western border. I believe it's the S-400 air defense systems that have, come really handy and have held us in good stead. But your thoughts on what's transpired over the last few hours?
Good morning and Jai Hind to all your viewers. It's like this. 45, I think, would be a small number, considering the type of firepower we put up and we saw on television last night. And when we're talking of the whole border, from Jammu and Kashmir down to Punjab. And it's just not the S-400. We must understand that S-400 is one part of the Integrated Air Command and Control System, IACCS, of the Indian Air Force, in which all inputs of radars, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Civil are taken into that IACCS. All the firepower, the missile systems, they are integrated with that. The whole picture is available to the fighter controllers. And on that, depending on from where the threat is coming, the ideal weapon to engage that threat is given the orders to engage. So it's an IACCS that goes on. S-400 has been in the news, and rightly so. But please do remember, we have got our Indra radars all over. We have got the Israeli Spider system. We have got, and with their own integral radars, and also the Russian radars, which the Indian Air Force and the Indian Army also have. But it's all integrated. And what we saw yesterday evening and night, was a very good demonstration of the good integration that we have done to all our assets. It is not that the Army was firing on its own and the Air Force was firing on its own what threat perception. No, it was one single one that happened. So that's a good show. Hereafter, I think we can expect a little lull, because that's what geopolitically, with the type of pressures that would be coming, and the Pakistani domestic audience will be subdued for a while, I think we should expect a lull.
Right. Expect a lull, and I think absolutely. Air Marshal Bahadur, would you see this as what happens next? I mean, if I were to ask you as a military man, what is your sense? Is this, in a way, escalating to de-escalate? Or, or this is... The bigger risk is this kind of goes out of control, because beyond a point we don't know what Pakistan will do, and then you have to respond, and then it kind of goes up the escalation ladder. So I'm just trying to understand, in your opinion, you said, well, expect a lull for now, but this situation lingers on for some more time?
Yes, we will be on stand too, as they say, for the next few days. We'll be getting our stocks up. The surveillance would continue without a break, despite all what the other side would say. Our defenses would be strengthened. Now, behind us, in the background, is diplomacy carrying on.
Yeah.
We have to understand that one is, what is the political aim right now for us? Our political aim is to convey to the other side that enough is enough. On the Pakistani side, the issue that happened yesterday was that we responded to their attack the previous night by sending in our Harop and Harpi drones. And that was in full visibility of the Pakistani public. That's what would have pushed the Pakistani administration to assuage, their domestic opinion. That having happened last night, I personally feel Asim Munir will call it a day from his side. What plans we have, I don't think we would like to escalate, provided the other side gives reasonable assurance. Musharraf did that earlier, which lasted a few years. But I'm quite sure our political establishment right now is quite firm in knowing what it wants from the other side to call it a day.
All right, Air Marshal Bahadur, thanks a lot for joining in, sir. I wanted to ask you about, what prompted Pakistan's military to respond, given their comparatively very, very limited capabilities. Do you believe they're counting on some external support from any ally?
You see, their big backer, of course, besides China, is Turkey. We do not know what all items or equipment would have come their way. But it's not easy to get newly inducted equipment quickly, synchronized with what you already have. Having said that, let's remember that we have healthy respect for any adversary, whether it be Pakistan or China. Okay, they have got forces, they have got capability, we've got much more. We have got manpower that is well trained, but we have a healthy respect for them. So, and that's what should be of a good fighting element. Never underestimate your adversary. Be one step ahead of him. So, does it have enough equipment? I personally feel it has to carry on for a few more days, but then its economy and the political and diplomatic pressure would come. I don't think I think they have achieved what they wanted to, as I said earlier, of telling their public that, listen, we also went in. You saw Indian drones coming in, we also gone in. It's quits. But it's quits for them, but we have to accept whether that is sufficient for us.
Sir, very, very well explained. And now we really hope you're right that finally better sense prevails on the Pakistani side and they've achieved their local narrative if that's what they were trying to settle. But yes, we don't know. We don't know the extent of our response. There's a lot of unconfirmed reports, which we are not carrying as a network. Nothing unless it's official from either the Army, the Air Force or the Ministry of Defense. Brigadier Sharma is...
May I just add one line? I mean,
yes, sir.
You will keep this artillery exchanges along the border.
Yes.
I'm afraid would continue to happen because actually it's become a new normal sort of a thing.
Absolutely.
But it's the bigger things, different things, that come.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's exactly what I was going to, ask Brigadier Sharma about. Sir, many thanks for joining us on the program today. On this very heavy shelling that we are seeing all across the LOC and, all the border areas, Poonch, Rajouri, we're getting those visuals, getting those inputs. Do you expect anything bigger, a bigger Pakistani army offensive on ground? Brigadier Sharma?
Thank you, Jai Hind, to all of you.
Jai Hind, sir.
Yes, this is as AVM Bahadur has also flagged, that this is the main decision point that the last night we saw the fifth round of escalation ladder, which was led by us. Now today daytime, what the Pakistanis do, because escalation ladder is actually India is using to deter Pakistan at some stage or other, because that is the objective, military objective, and that is also the political objective. Now, whether what has happened last night will deter Pakistan or not, has the geopolitical and politico-military message gone very strongly into them or not? Now, this is a point. The LOC is alive. The IB is also, the firing is taking place across IB. Now, this shift itself shows a level of escalation. And as AVM has pointed out earlier, the bigger weapons, when they start coming into play, especially the missiles, the surface-to-surface missiles and so on, that is the next level of escalation. So I hope Pakistan will refrain from doing that. And I would also like to add one very important input in last night's action, that almost 75 to 80% drones, as per the input available to me, were hard killed by our air defense system. And that shows that our command and control system has worked perfectly. Now, and remaining were soft kills, which that means they just got crashed and they got jammed out and so on. Now, the point in this is, which probably needs to be looked at is, I believe that number of drones, because drones are coming from bases across from quite a distance. Now,
yes.
When they enter our territory, their piloting is being taken on locally from elements inside our country. Now,
yes.
That is a worrisome aspect. I'm sure the government and our internal security agencies are looking at it to neutralize them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to come in such large numbers. But thanks to our air defense system, that we have been able to neutralize them very effectively.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. In fact, salute to our brave hearts, our soldiers, all our personnel manning those air defense systems. Air Marshal Bahadur, back to that point on potential escalation that we should be prepared for. Like Brigadier Sharma said, that if now Pakistani misadventures move on to surface missiles, then it could be the next layer of escalation. How would you rate our preparedness? And what would you anticipate, if Pakistan is, quote unquote, not done yet?
No. I mean, they'll be fools to escalate it to surface missile exchange. They know our capabilities. Theirs is a small country. We are a vast country with a deep hinterland. So it's not easy to take a decision to say, okay, let's lob a few surface-to-surface missiles. I don't think that is going to happen. Minor skirmishes would continue because that's what has been happening. As I said, that's unfortunately become the new normal. But if they were to escalate, we are ready. We have our air defense, which we saw partly its action yesterday. We've got much more up our sleeves as far as the anti-ballistic missile defense or taking them out is concerned. And we, of course, have our own, BrahMos, Prithvis, and other missiles. But I don't think we should be, adding fuel to fire at this stage. I don't think they would take this step. They would be big fools if they do that. Just remember one thing, they try to be irrational, but actually they are rational. So they play on their supposed irrationality to tell the world, hey, listen, come tell the Indians to pipe down, because we are irrational people. But at the end of it, they are rational actors, and people say the nuclear thing will come into effect. No. That will not happen, because there is rationality at play when you're talking of war and when you're talking of leadership.
Okay, all right. It's such a helpful perspective there, Air Marshal Bahadur and Brigadier Sharma. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Good perspective from both of you, and I hope we can come back to you for more as this story progresses, because I think, as both of you said, this is not done yet. We will be on our guard. The forces will be on our guard. And we, of course, will continue to lean on your expertise in military matters. We'll take a quick commercial break here. We're going to come back with, the 8 o'clock programming. We'll focus a little bit on markets as well, because there's a fair bit of news flow from overnight. Stay tuned. All of that coming up. Well, welcome back. You're with us, and we, of course, started Bazaar morning call earlier than usual at 7 o'clock. Actually, programming started, if you've been watching, since 6 in the morning, recapping all the developments which have happened since late last night. Let's now focus a little bit on the markets as well, because I think that is important. It's a constituency which is very much watching what's happening in terms of the escalation at the border. So I'll start with, of course, what we know officially with regards to confirmed information. So there is escalation. There is no two ways about it. India has shot down at least 40 to 45 drones which came in from the Pakistani side. There has been intense fire which has been exchanged between India and Pakistani forces. As reporters have told us since this morning, this AM, that so far things are calm. It looks like, fingers crossed, after what has happened last night, things have quietened down a little bit, maybe just for now. But that is the situation right now. We just spoke with a reporter from Jammu, etc., and that's essentially what they told us. There's nothing which is happening on some of the fronts which were targeted by Pakistan at this point in time. Okay, so that's the domestic front, which I think is the most important driver. But there's a lot of cues from overnight as well. So let's get to it. US equity markets higher. S&P was up about 0.6. NASDAQ was up about 1% or so. It was well advertised by the New York Times story. Trump announced a trade deal with the UK. And we got some specifics as well. And the sum and substance of it is that it is better than what was being expected in terms of this particular trade deal. Trump also, by the way, sounded optimistic on being able to do other deals. There is an article from New York Post which essentially says that the US is planning to slash China tariffs to as low as 50%, down from 145% as soon as next week. Now, Trump was asked this about, I think, 48 hours back, and he said, well, no, I will not. But this is what the New York Post is reporting, and many are saying, well, it'll be like a starting point. You give something for talks to start, because China has been adamant that they need to lower tariffs. And it's, they've been sort of treated very unfairly with this. So we'll see if this happens. But I think if this were to happen, it'll be seen as a big giveaway, much bigger than, the UK deal that we've seen last night. US-EU officials are reportedly talking now. The talks are on currently. US-China officials, of course, as we know, are meeting in Switzerland this weekend. And generally, last night, there was a bit of a risk-on sentiment. Actually, the S&P rallied quite hard. We got to about 57.50 kind of levels, and then on the S&P, we cooled off a little bit and ended off the highs of the day. Risk-on sentiment essentially also meant that yields shot up. Actually, across the board, the 2-year, 5, 10, 30, very large moves. So the US 10-year was up 12 basis points to 4.4% last night. Oil prices, again, it's simply a manifestation of the risk on. Oil prices also went up about 3% to about $63 a barrel. So, it's a situation where we find ourselves global, actually quite constructive, quite positive. But of course, you've got local, the Pakistani issue, the Pakistani front, which I think is the big driver from here on. I just want to say, yesterday, we broke the low of 24,198 intraday. But the adjusted average close, we closed above it. So the big level on the Nifty is 24,198. A decisive close under it, I think, will mean perhaps more pressure. But more levels with Nigel. GIFT Nifty, I think, as we've been pointing out, is indicating a lower start. Nigel, what's on your radar?
Well, that's right. The GIFT Nifty is indicating a bit of a pullback. But in yesterday's trading session itself, we factored in some part of the bad news, according to me. So I think by the end of today, we could be higher than the lows that we saw in the first hour of trade. Now, India will emerge stronger, no doubt about it, as a nation as well as the market. And history suggests that stock markets do recover. Why did we decline so sharply in the final hour of trade? One was the India-Pakistan border tensions. The second factor was yesterday was weekly expiry. And that's why, in fact, there was an added element of volatility out there. Besides the money market weakness that we saw towards the end of trade, I think the most crucial factor you need to track from here on is the India VIX. Pull up the intraday chart out there. In the last 10 days or so, the India VIX actually has gone up by nearly around 18 to 20%. And that's the fear indicator. That's the one that, in fact, has been spiking up. So just keep an eye out on the India VIX. As that starts cooling down, will mean that actually the bulls believe that the worst is behind and we're looking ahead. Keep an eye out on that. That's the most important factor today. It will start higher today yet again. But then, in fact, if it starts cooling down, means the market is gradually pricing in the worst. Moving to what history suggests. Well, history suggests that India-Pakistan combats actually, when history suggests that moving ahead, in fact, in the next 12 months or so, actually, Indian markets do outperform. And the FI flows as well, in 9 out of the 10 instances of the recent past, have indicated that the FI flows, actually, they do continue. So we'll have to see how that goes this time around, because the FI flows have just returned. In the last 13 trading sessions, the Nifty actually has been consolidating in this 650-point band. That's because of the attack that we saw on April 22nd in Pahalgam. And from then onwards, we have been in this broad band. So there has been some consolidation that we've seen. The FI flows, yes, they're strong in the cash market. The problem is what's happening in the F&O market. And the sense you get is we are missing the FI net shorts in the system, because now the FIs are net long for the first time all the way since October 2024. Moving to the positioning, well, both the FIs, the highest long positions we have seen since October, the clients, the highest net short positions what we have seen all the way since October. So both of them actually have flipped it around. The options data comes up for you on the screen. 24,400 call continues to remain very, very active. Writing being seen out there. But the crucial one is the 24,000 put. There is still some writing being seen out there, the premium around 200 rupees, which gives you your near-term support. The lower end of the range is at around 23,800. I want to see that mark getting defended today. And the 20 DMA, both on the Nifty as well as the Nifty Bank, you want to protect it on a closing basis. As I said earlier, India is going to emerge stronger as a nation from here on, and also the equity markets, as history suggests, over the next 12 months or so, you do see a recovery. So we'll keep an eye on that front. A weak start, but I expect some kind of a recovery during the course of the day.
Okay, let's see how this progresses. A lot is going to depend on the official briefing that we're expecting from the MEA. That's when a lot of these stats and the latest on ground will become clear. Well, let's welcome in Mr. K.C. Singh, former diplomat and strategic affairs expert. He's with us now. Thank you very much, sir, for joining in. I believe that, I'm just telling viewers, you have been an envoy to various missions, including, I believe, Iran and UAE as well. We were just speaking to several defense experts and retired veterans from the Air Force as well as the Army. Now, from your diplomatic lens, sir, I mean, is there, we've been, of course, building and reaching out to our allies, but will the allies do the needful in exerting some sort of pressure on Pakistan to now back down? Do you think the diplomatic route will yield desired results?
Look, the diplomatic route by itself cannot and does not work. It's in combination with what is happening between India and Pakistan. Mostly what we've seen over the last 48 hours, even as it escalated, attacks have been on military facilities. They're very specific attacks. Even yesterday, the swarm drone attacks by Pakistan were on Jammu, Udhampur, which is the Northern Army Command Center, and Pathankot. So essentially, even though it looked like civilian areas are getting attacked, other than line of control where civilians are being hit, so far both India and Pakistan are hitting military facilities and testing each other's capabilities in the air. The ground troops haven't got involved. We haven't crossed on the land the border or the LOC. Now that's a positive. The negative is that it's been all kinds of weapons have been traded. But the positive side is diplomatically. Yesterday, the Saudi Deputy Foreign Minister was in Delhi. He met our Prime Minister. And this morning, the Saudi Foreign Minister is arriving or has already arrived in Islamabad. So the Saudis are playing that role. And we've also seen since last night, the Americans are also giving stronger statements. Till now, President Trump appeared completely distracted, unattached to what was happening here, which was quite different from the last time around. In 2019, the Americans were directly involved. But these statements now coming are saying, de-escalate at once. So I think the Saudis are fronting for the Americans, and the IMF loan is coming up. Americans have that lever. They don't have to be in Islamabad. They can press that lever. They can stop that loan, or they can allow it to go through. So what we can see is that today, while this diplomacy is on, there is a window, there's a narrow window available that public opinion on both sides is satisfied. Pakistanis will tell their people, look, we hit so many missiles and drones, and the Indians are on the back foot. We, of course, know what our defense ministry will say and what our point of view is there. Normally, you get to ceasefire when each side can claim, take away something which is a bit of a win, right or wrong. But that is the claim that they have to sell to their public opinion. So I think we have a narrow window before actual escalation, which means missiles are fired or troops start crossing the land border or the LOC. Before that happens,
and I think
on the table is Pakistan has terrorism, which it has to control.
Mr. Singh, if I can come in.
The water weapon.
And we'll talk about that. But I think it's very important that you put this on. What you started by saying, right? There's so much misinformation. It's just absolutely crazy and bizarre. Some of what we've been seeing on social media. What you're saying is, so far, what both sides have done, and it looks like what the Pakistani side has also done, is testing each other's air capabilities. And the targets have been military sites, not cities and civilian areas, etc. That's essentially what you're saying. That's what it looks like to you, which then means that this could be. Is it possible to say, in your experience, if there is the military operation, also diplomatic pressure? A bit of an escalating to de-escalate kind of a situation. Does it look like that possible from here?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's what the Saudis are doing at the moment. Because what we require is we have brought the terrorism issue up front. For Pakistan, they wanted to mainstream the Kashmir issue. They've done it. But we've also got the water weapon. Now, we've said the Indus Water Treaty is in abeyance. We've been stopping the water of Chenab and Jhelum and then suddenly releasing it. So we've shown Pakistan that we have the capability of using water as a weapon. So therefore, on the table, when we sit, it's not going to be, till now, Pakistan used to say, terrorism can stop if you settle the Kashmir issue. Now it's going to be, terrorism has to stop if you don't want us to use the water weapon. So for India, that's a much better equation. And therefore, there is a possibility of a narrow window of saying, okay, other than limited firing across LOC, which also should stop over a period of time, because BSF has given out a report that there were militants being pushed through, and that is where they opened fire, which means Pakistan has no desire at the moment to have the troops cross over. They are again back to pushing militants in. Now, during that narrow window, there'll have to be a discussion. It can be back channel, it can be through third parties, to say, okay, at some stage we'll sit down and we will discuss the water thing. We want a review of the Indus Water Treaty. We will not threaten you with stopping the water and suddenly releasing it. But you also have to start checking the militancy, support to militancy. We saw Pakistani army present right when funerals were taking place in Pakistan and so on and so forth of militants who've been killed. So I think Pakistan army also has to step back. Normally, Pakistani army is very good at tactical risks. They did it in case of Kargil, and then, Musharraf was sacked, though he went on to, commit a coup against the civilian government. So therefore, it'll come on General Munir that what have you gained by doing this? And normally, civilian governments emerge stronger if the military adventure of Pakistan does not succeed, though they'll go and say it has succeeded. But there is a window today, and I think by evening, if it does not escalate, I think both sides can sit down and talk.
Well, Ambassador Singh, important point that you're making, and we do hope that there is a de-escalation from here. But let me also bring in Air Marshal P.S. Ahluwalia, Indian Air Force veteran and defense analyst, into the conversation. Air Marshal Ahluwalia, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. What we have seen overnight and over the last 48 hours is the significant use of drones, Air Marshal Ahluwalia. This is drone warfare underway at this point in time. The Indian defense establishment saying that we've shot down between 45 to 50 drones overnight. Of course, the targets have been military establishments along the north and the west. What do you make of the way that Pakistan has gone about this? But more importantly, to Ambassador K.C. Singh's point, what do you believe the window now is for possible de-escalation?
See, this is where strategic planning comes in. And firstly, of course, to answer your question, that drones, yes, but you have all kinds of drones. You have drones which are, 4 or 5 kgs, very small ones, which is what they generally use across the LOC. And that's what they've been using even for our northern airfields along the line of control. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, we've done better drone planning, and we've got, the Harpy and the Herald. These are absolute destructive causing drones. They are let loose, they don't need to come back, and they inflict a great amount of damage. So we have used them very effectively. And to go back to the main strategic thinking here, we have actually played our cards very well. Number one, we have done our planning, we've done wargaming, and we have been prepared to take up the escalation ladder as it comes across. We have shown great professionalism. We've got the right kind of weaponry required to achieve our aim. For instance, on the first day, we went and struck these training camps, 6 across the LOC, another 4 in Pakistan hinterland. This was done through BVR. This was done through air platforms, the Air Force mainly. The next day, they tried to react. They were not able to do so. And then we did, suppression of air defense assets. For instance, we struck the air defense assets of Pakistan, mainly in Lahore, in Karachi, Rawalpindi, and a few other places, very effectively. And what's more, we were able to put up these pictures that you saw, which you're seeing on TV, to show and ensure that the perception is right. That yes, not only have we attacked, but we have attacked usefully, we have attacked constructively, and we have actually got the kind of damage that we needed. So that is going very well. As far as Pakistan is concerned, they have lost, 2 JS-17s. They have lost an F-16. And more importantly, they have also lost an AWACS. Now, AWACS is very important because it's like, having your eyes in the sky. And once they lose that, then they become blind all over again. So AWACS is gone. They're, sorry, excuse me. Then what they're doing on the air defense suppression, that has been very, very effective. For instance, that the Chinese 9 and 16 missile units, those have been destroyed. So they've got nothing to take us with as such. So now it's a little bit of propaganda, a total inefficiency as far as warfighting is concerned. They're not achieving anything, just letting fly these small little drones, which can hardly cause any damage. And basically it is used anti-personnel, very small areas. So all in all, what do we see from here? The question is that they have not been able to achieve anything. Their progress, as far as the military is concerned, is very poor. For instance, unfortunately for them, the Air Force takes second place. It's the Army that's running the show. And in today's warfare, it's the Air Force that has the cutting edge. They're the ones who are going to deliver. And they're the ones who are going to deliver effectively. They're ones who are going to deliver politically. For instance, every little bomb that you drop anywhere within their territory, which can be seen by the civilians, that's crazy. You must have seen some of their members of parliament, actually crying, literally crying on TV, asking their government to do something about it. So all in all, I don't think we need anybody's help. We don't need anybody's support. And all this diplomatic pressure and all, I think personally, it's non-effective. It has not been effective anywhere earlier. It won't be effective here. What will be effective here is that we carry on hammering these guys. We carry on hammering them till we get them to bend their knees. And once that starts to happen, then we'll be able to dictate our terms. Nobody wants an escalation. Nobody wants to get into, long drawn-out conflict. Certainly not. Yeah. But we can ask them or we can force them to bend their knees. Then they'll come on the negotiating table. And that's where we can dictate terms for de-escalation as and when it happens.
Yes, that window, as Ambassador Singh was pointing out, is perhaps narrow and something that we will have to watch very closely. But Marshal Ahluwalia, just on those claims of the Pakistani fighters being downed, so far, and again, we're only putting out verified information on CNBC-TV18, we have not been able to independently verify that from the Ministry of Defense or our sources in the government at this point in time. India has not come out and said that it has been responsible for downing Pakistan air fighters or airplanes at this point in time. So that is something that we need to put on the table. But Ambassador Singh, coming back to you, and you were talking about the meeting that took place of the Saudi Minister of State yesterday with both Jaishankar as well as the Prime Minister. You also probably have taken note of the statement that came in, or not the statement, but the comment that came in from the US Vice President J.D. Vance in a conversation on Fox News, where he's essentially said, and I quote, "We're not going to get involved in the middle of the war between India and Pakistan. Getting involved in the tensions between India and Pakistan is fundamentally none of our business and nothing to do with the ability of America to control it. US is going to pursue this through diplomatic channels." We also know that Secretary Rubio has been in conversation with the External Affairs Minister. How do you read the comment that's come in from J.D. Vance and the role that the US is likely to play? And also an important meeting this evening of the IMF, where a further bailout to Pakistan is going to be up for decision. The Foreign Secretary yesterday sending that message out out saying that countries who decide to support Pakistan are supporting terror. Do you believe that we could perhaps see an impasse at the IMF meeting?
Look, I would discount what Vice President Vance says. He plays the good cop and the bad cop. We've seen it in case of various issues, whether it's relationship with Europe, whether it's something he pleases his master by taking these extreme positions. But Marco Rubio, as we know, is also the NSA. He's got more and more power. And therefore, I think for pragmatic purposes, President Trump is relying on Rubio, whereas for making noise and taking extreme positions, Vance comes in. So we should pay more attention to what Rubio is doing. Rubio has said we need de-escalation now, which means the Saudis are talking to both sides. They're doing it obviously in tandem with US. And US has this lever. They can stop the IMF loan. We can't stop it. We can make noise. But essentially, it's US that can stop it. Now, that lever would probably be in play. And that is why I said the whole of today is important. Pakistan can take away from this and tell their own public, look, we fired so many drones, we brought down Indian planes, we've done that. That propaganda helps them to step back. And then on the Indian side, of course, we know Marshal Ahluwalia has already told us we have countered everything Pakistan has flung at us, and we've got spare capacity. Pakistan knows it. And therefore, this is a new kind of war. This is not 65, 71 or Kargil. There are no troops involved here. This is essentially air dominance, essentially to see, and this is something which has come after Ukraine, where we've seen how Ukraine has used drones to counter a nuclear power like Russia. So this is new warfare that we're seeing in South Asia, and dominance in that new warfare is a new kind of dominance. And it may not be visible, but as far as the forces of Pakistan army is concerned, they would have seen that they cannot handle it. And we'll know today, but at the same time, we should not discount it, that the Pakistani army is led by very bigoted and very determined general, and they tend to make tactical mistakes. Time and again, we've seen it. Whether it's 71, whether it's Kargil or anything else, they tend to get Pakistan into a mess, into a strategic mess. And today, the civilian government is weaker than ever before. A younger Sharif is not as strong as his elder brother was when he took on Musharraf, because you got the real powerful politician Imran Khan is in jail, who's the common enemy of Sharif and the Pakistani army. So there is an entirely different political situation there, and globally it's a fragmented thing, where US used to play the arbiter. It is no longer willing to play that openly. That's what Vance is saying, that we will apply the diplomatic pressure, but we don't want to get involved with it, which is in keeping with their stance on Ukraine, on Gaza, and various other things. But there is something happening behind the scenes. And I think if the signals have been read by the Pakistani army, they would step back. They would step back not because the government can control them. They'll step back because reality check would be made and the international pressure comes in. And so the next 12 hours are important.
Yes, the next 12 hours are crucial. And again, to this point being made about facts versus fiction, and there is a lot of fiction masquerading as fact online, and including mainstream media channels. So as we've been pointing out, we're only putting out verified information. There are a lot of deep fakes circulating at this point in time, including many, that have gone viral. So we're being very mindful of that as well. Retired General SVP Singh, former ADG Artillery and Defense Analyst, also here with us. General Singh, thanks very much for joining us. There has been a very specific response from the Indian side, of course, using things like the S-400. Your assessment of where we find ourselves in this operation today.
I think India has done very well, very well timed. Our three-tier services have reacted or been preemptive in the terrorist camp attacks, and then reacted to bring down the missiles of Pakistan. And now last night, what they have done, Pakistan, I think all their attacks, drone attacks, all their efforts have been foiled. Now that's a very big success. And we see that our Navy is also active on the Arabian Sea. Our Air Force has done a commendable job, and the Army, particularly now committed in the LOC environment, pounding uh, the targets in the J&K, opposite us in the Azad Kashmir, POK. So I think my assessment would be that Pakistan has not learned its lessons and they're continuing to show raw courage, which is not becoming of a nation state. And the leadership, particularly now with General Munir, whose position is now also not confirmed whether he's firmly in the seat or not, and the Prime Minister, who has been more of a dwarf Prime Minister, I think the most dwarf Prime Minister of Pakistan thus far, Pakistan is in trouble. And by always creating trouble, now they are in trouble themselves in this environment. And I think there some movement of their troops and tanks should be taking place if they are really serious about doing what they want to do. But Indian military is well poised to crush them. So I would say that this next 24 hours will unfold where Pakistan is. Now, our non-kinetic measures have been effective so far. Firstly, we did the water controlling over there in the Chenab and the Jhelum, and now the IMF meeting, which is likely in the next 12 hours or so, that also is going to have a major effect. If we can get Pakistan at the least on the grey list, it will be a repeat of 2008-12 and 2018-22. So that should put Pakistan in place. Pakistan, I think, had relied more, perhaps, of assurances of China. They had recently done the live firing exercise in Tibet, and a lot of their vehicles, which I presume were the logistic supply vehicles on the G219 highway, Pakistan got encouraged. Also in the Arabian Sea, China had sent their ships disguised as fishermen, but they were the intelligence one. So I think Pakistan felt encouraged that China would indulge in some manner. But seeing the geopolitical environment, China will remain in the shadow. And India has played its cards very well in the geopolitical aspect, in the diplomatic front. Recently, I think what major effects have come in is the Indo-UK FTA. Indo-European Union FTA is also likely to come by. And the tariff agreements with US, if they come about, then I think India's geopolitical position is going to be much stronger. At the same time, what I would like to say that Indian military has come of age in the sense that we were in the process for the last few years with the appointment of the Chief of Defense Staff, theaterization. It has been war game discussed, but formally it has not come through. And today is an opportunity for us to actually not war game, but to put to test what we really want in our theaterized commands. And S-400 and our Akash air defense system. They have done a fantastic job. And we should be very proud that Akash is our indigenous production. Now, that's been great. 25 kilometers range. It is fully supportive of our layered air defense system, which has contributed to defeating the missile attacks yesterday and the drone attacks of Pakistan. Now, as far as our artillery is concerned, I think so far we have not opened up with the might of the Indian artillery, except that what is happening in the LOC sector. But then we have on play Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launchers, which will get an opportunity to show itself. Again, first time in the world, we have the BrahMos missile, which has also to open up. So I feel that with all this taking place, we are actually in the stage of non-contact warfare at the moment. Kinetic has come through, but it's a non-contact warfare. Pakistan, perhaps with the damages being done to them across the border, right up to Islamabad, should now also contain itself. So that much is my assessment.
Right.
And that is a very comprehensive assessment, General Singh. Thank you so much for explaining to us where we find ourselves, but more importantly, what our arsenal looks like at this point in time, what our military options look like at this point in time. As you pointed out, the focus at this point has been on non-contact warfare. It has largely been based on air operations. And of course, once again, we would like to highlight that reports suggesting that there has been any tank movement, ground troop movement, that is been debunked by the Indian Army, by the Ministry of Defence. But General Singh, thank you very much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. We appreciate your time, and we will, of course, come back to you as the situation continues to develop. Thank you very much for being with us here this morning. We will, of course, focus on what is happening in the markets as well. We're going to take a quick break and be right back with you. You're watching Bazaar Morning Call.
Welcome back. You're tuned in to CNBC TV18 and you're on Bazaar Morning Call. Well, let's focus on a couple of stocks then that will be in the news today. Mangalam joins us to run us through a quick list. Mangalam?
A bunch of results that came in post-markets overnight. Let's start with Britannia, where there was more good than bad. What was good was that the revenue, EBITDA, as well as margins along with net profit, all of them were above street expectations, and 9% revenue growth. The EBITDA didn't contract as much as the street was anticipating, and the profits on the back of that above expectations as well. What wasn't good, however, was the volume growth was just at 3%. So we'll try and get in some more details from the management on that. The gross margins were lower, but the companies managed that through curtailing other expenses, and that's commendable. So see green on Britannia. Look at Titan. There was a positive surprise on margins coming in on Titan as well. Revenue, EBITDA, as well as net profit, all of them were above street expectations. The key internal was jewelry EBIT margins coming in at closer to 12% versus 12.1%, and this despite a dip in the studded share. That tells you that there is stability there. But more importantly, they've also announced a succession plan that was on the cards. Ajay Chawla, who is currently the CEO of the jewelry division of the company, will succeed as the MD from Jan 1, 2026. See green on Titan as well. Pidilite, a good set was expected, and a good set is what the company has reported. Strong underlying volume growth of 9.8%, so near double-digit volume growth, the highest in the sector so far. And ad spends were also spurred up to, spur demand. So as a result of which, there was a mild miss on margins, but nothing really to worry about. Fairly strong results coming in from Pidilite. And finally, we have Kalyan Jewellers. We already had the update. 36% revenue growth is what the company has reported, 35% EBITDA growth, and the net profit grew by 36% as well. More importantly, their non-South revenue grew at 48% versus South revenue growing at 29%. And studded revenue grew much faster than gold revenue, and that's margin accretive as well. Middle East too saw 26% growth. The company sanguine on growth prospects and store openings going forward.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, Mangalam. So Mangalam ran us through a few stocks, but Vivek as well is joining in to run us through another set of stocks that he's tracking. Morning, Vivek.
Well, good morning. Top amongst them being L&T. L&T, the numbers themselves were quite mixed, largely in line with what the street was anticipating. But what analyst community have really liked is the fact that the company has given a very strong guidance when it comes to FY26. Let's quickly run through the numbers. The revenues are higher by almost 11%, slight miss versus our estimates. EBITDA higher by 13.5%. And when you're talking about the margins, that is something that has seen a bit of an improvement on a year-on-year basis. The consolidated margins at 11% versus 10.8%. Profitability was aided by a one-time gain of close to 475 crore. On the back of that was up 25%. Now let us look at the guidance. The guidance has beat most of the street expectations. The top line growth is seen at 15%. Remember, for FY25, they had given a guidance of 15%. They beat that, and the FY25 top line growth was 18%. Core margin guidance seen at 8.5%. For FY25, they had given a margin guidance of 8.2%. they ended with 8.3. So again, that's a positive. Order inflow guidance, remember, FY24, the order book or the order inflow was close to 3 lakh crore. They gave a guidance of 10% for FY25. They beat that, and actually it was much higher than that. On that very elevated base of FY25, they have given an order inflow guidance of another 10%, which is a clear positive. And order prospects is very strong, 19 lakh crore, of which 7 lakh crore is the domestic ordering prospect and 12 lakh crore is the international ordering prospect. So going ahead, L&T, especially in FY26, expects to see better prospects or better ordering coming in from the international market. Now moving on to Biocon, a very strong set of numbers. It's a beat across all of the estimates. The growth was largely led by the generics business that recovered and the biosimilar business that went up almost 4% on a year-on-year basis. Revenues higher by 13%. Significant beat versus our poll of close to 4,168 crore. EBITDA at a little over 1,075. Beat against our poll of just around 943 crore. Margins expanding significantly over 320 basis points and profitability higher, more than doubling in fact on a year-on-year basis. Coming to MCX, a bit of a disappointment over here. It's been a miss across the board. EBITDA margin pressurized due to a significant jump as far as IT expenses as well as a 39% year-on-year jump as far as employee expenses are concerned. Revenues are 5% miss versus estimates. EBITDA 20% miss versus estimates. EBITDA margins again a significant almost 10% miss against what the poll was anticipating, and profitability too a 12% miss against estimates. So expect some pressure on MCX today. And lastly, Aarti Industries over here too. It's been a beat across what the street was anticipating. Both volumes have come in very strong. Cost efficiencies is something that the company has managed to deliver, and the company meets what was essentially a reduced EBITDA guidance of 1,000 crore for FY25. Looking at the numbers, revenues higher by 10%, a beat against our own poll. EBITDA at 268 crore, beat against the poll of 247 crore. Margins at 13.8 versus 16.4. And lastly, PAT down 27%, but it's a beat against our poll of close to 58 crore. So overall, whole host of stocks, and they will react to the earnings that came post-market after yesterday.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, gentlemen. Well, let's hop across to Manisha. She's tracking all the commodity action overnight. Manisha?
Well, thank you so much for that, Nigel. I'll start with gold, and we seem to be looking at a third straight day of decline here. 1.5% of a cut in the overnight markets, and that is because you have the dollar index behaving as a safe haven. It's trading at a 4-week highs, and this is going to be a third weekly gain for the dollar index. And that seems to be weighing not just on gold, but many of these. The copper price is now trading at a 1-month lows. We have seen higher supplies come into the international markets. And apart from that, it also has to do with China, where the stocks have declined ahead of that high-stake tariff talks. So the decline in Chinese markets also seems to be impacting the metal prices. Not just copper, you have aluminum now trading below $2,400 a ton. Iron ore prices are trading at a 7-month lows. Steel is trading at a 1-month lows in the international markets as well. The only thing that is trading in the positive clearly has been the crude oil prices. Back above $60 a barrel, it has been a near 3% of gain in the overnight markets. The hopes of progress in US-China talks, the US-UK trade agreement reports support, and the US-Iran nuclear deal in focus as well. So all of these factors is what is keeping the crude prices higher, but metals of all sorts trading in the negative.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot for that, Manisha. Well, let's get in some quick fundamental analysis going. We have Sid Kemka of Motilal Oswal who joins us on the show. Hi, Sid. Good morning. Good to see you. Well, eye on the border, but we have got a couple of big earnings reactions to focus on. What do you make of Titan's numbers? And L&T, actually, the guidance that they've given is quite strong. So what's your view on both these two frontline names?
Yeah, good morning, Nigel. Glad to be on the show. Definitely a lot of eyes on the border and praise for all those people staying and the armed forces. A lot of key results. Titan among them posted very strong growth, superior margins. So overall consolidated sales grew about 19%. And if you look at the standalone jewelry sales, that rose 25%, and mainly because of the rise in ticket sizes because of increasing gold prices. What is interesting is that the jewelry EBIT margins that expanded on 90 basis points on a Q-on-Q basis at 11.9% versus 11.2% that was estimated. Overall, what we see is that the healthy growth outlook continues to remain pretty strong. We are seeing a faster formalization in the jewelry industry, where we believe Titan will keep leveraging on this trend, driven by its store additions, multiple formats, presence, customers' understanding and designs, and a strong recall of trust, as well as if you see the management guidance of any fall in gold prices that could also boost the volume growth going forward. So pretty strong set of numbers, and we believe that the brand recall and business modes that continues to favor Titan. What we expect is about a 16% revenue CAGR and a 22% PAT CAGR. And we believe that it's a long runway for growth. We have a buy rating with a target price of 4,000 on Titan. The other one is Larsen. Again, pretty strong set of numbers, beat estimates both for Q4 as well as for the full year. The order inflows were pretty strong, and the guidance of another 10% growth in that high order book, that goes on to show the strength in the underlying business. What is driving that? Clearly, the international orders are driving L&T's core the engineering business. And I think that is where we expect the execution to remain strong with a strong order book. And given the healthy prospect of pipeline and the company ability to maintain the net working capital and high ROEs, we continue to remain positive on L&T. We have a target price of 3,950 and a buy rating on Larsen.
Okay, got that. So that stay on. We'll come back shortly. By the way, some of the Asian markets have turned slightly negative. We'll just pull up the GIFT Nifty. Anyway, for us, the implied open has been indicating a weaker start. I think we have Sandeep Tandon also joining in. Do we have Sandeep Tandon? I think in a bit we'll get Sandeep. And for now, let's go across to our next guest. We have with us Rajiv Dogra, former diplomat, joining us on the program. Sir, thank you very much for joining in. So we're, of course, tracking this along with the rest of the nation, and our thoughts and prayers with our brave soldiers. It's all boiling down to whether the military offensive will take a bit of a pause and whether a window of diplomacy will now open up or not. We had a former diplomat, Mr. Singh, Mr. KC Singh, with us just a while back, and he was suggesting that the parleys that are ongoing, the Saudis have met us, they've apparently met the Pakistanis as well, that could perhaps provide some sort of a breakthrough and put the necessary pressure on Pakistan. What are your thoughts?
Well, every diplomat should not close any window at all. So one should keep the option of a peaceful solution, peaceful resolution to issues like war, because war is very expensive business. In fact, I've written an entire book on wars in the world, especially India-Pakistan war, and it's a scary reading, I can tell you this. But having said that, now, how long can you keep on bleeding? It's very good to say that, yes, let's stop the war, let's take the path of peace. But please remember two things. One, as a studio based in Mumbai, please recall 1993, when the attack was to cripple the financial capital of India. Ever since then, Mumbai has not been the same. Mumbai was a happy city. Mumbai was a city on the go. Now people look over their shoulders. And more than that, not just Mumbai, the entire India since 1993 has not been the same. Whichever building you go to, whichever office you go to, whichever industry you go to, you have guards guarding those. You might say, so what? The so what answer to that is that annually India is spending over $11 billion on maintaining these security checks, maintaining these guards. So that is how Pakistan has been successful in bleeding us since 1993, which was multiplied again in 2611. The second is Pakistan has been engaged for the last 35 years in a war by stealth called terrorism. So Pakistan will continue its business the same way, even if the present conflict stops tomorrow. So we have to be careful in what we are hoping for. And India, please also remember, throughout its history, has been forgiving
And in every such instance where India has been forgiving, it has had huge costs to pay. And I'm talking of centuries back. So do we want to come back one more time to the same position that, yes, everything is fine, you're forgiven, the 22nd April massacre has been forgotten, let's shake hands and be friends again. Pakistan has no intention of being India's friend.
Mr. Dogra, if I could ask you now what you see as the possible options. So far, the Indian strategy, the Indian military strategy has worked very effectively, very successfully. But from here, of course, to preempt any nefarious move on the Pakistani part, but what do you believe are the options that India could choose to exercise from here?
Well, Shireen, I think so far India has been responding to Pakistan's aggression. And for the last 15 days, despite 22nd April, Pakistan has been violating the ceasefire every night. And yesterday, they went overboard in sending missiles and so on to Indian military assets. So now the time has come for us to consider, for the government to consider, and I'm sure they're doing it already, whether we should be only in the responsive mode or should we be aggressively responsive. I think unless we step up the pressure on Pakistan, and there are enough hints from across the world, USA in particular, where we are getting full support. Now, war is uncertain business. We might have an advantage today. There could be some unfortunate incidents tomorrow. Because remember, Pakistan still has about 80, 90 reported terrorists hiding in Jammu and Kashmir, and perhaps has some sleeper cells all over the country. So there could be nasty surprises, but war has nasty surprises in every situation. So we should be patient, but we should pursue our goal that from now onwards, Pakistan will not pursue terror as a means of its stealth war. I think that should be objective number one and the only objective that India should have.
Ms. Dogra, appreciate you joining us here this morning, sir. We, of course, will reconnect with you and we hope to have you back as we hear from the Indian government, from the Ministry of Defence. We are expecting that briefing on the next course of action. But for now, we truly appreciate you taking time out to join us here on CNBC-TV18 with your thoughtful insights on where we find ourselves. We will take a break. A lot more coming up. Don't go anywhere. We are, of course, counting down to the markets opening as well. But back in a moment with more.
Welcome back. We have Sandeep Tandana joining us, founder and chief investment officer at Quant Mutual Fund. Sandeep, good morning. Good to have you with us here. I think we've been trying to get that line right so we can see you absolutely clearly, and I hope we can hear you right as well. Congratulations first up for that license from the regulator, which came in 2 days back. I think you're the first mutual fund to get it?
That's correct, Prashant. Thanks a lot for that.
Right. Well, absolutely. But let's talk about what's, of course, the most pressing issue at hand, which is the border escalation that we've seen, Sandeep. You know, I was saying this earlier. Broadly, I mean, we are a business channel and we talk money and finance. From that perspective, and we leave the military things to the military experts, but it's well understood Pakistan doesn't have any money, let alone for a war. So eventually this should logically de-escalate. Now, anything can happen. But what is your sense on this entire thing? And how would you see this play out?
So, yeah, if you ask me, you know, market participant may not like it, but if you ask me, this we have seen Indo-border tension for last many decades. Okay, so once it has to be settled, and if Pakistan has invited the trouble, and I think whatever step government has taken, and we are very proud of it, and one should settle down. Okay, you have to crush them. Okay, so to avoid futuristic problem, otherwise it's a niggling problem which continues every time, and we have lost so many lives in the past. So if you ask me as a citizen, I'm very proud what government has taken initiative, and all the three forces has done a remarkable job. And if you really look at our air defense system, we are able to halt any sort of attacks. I think this is a very powerful message. Like after Israel, we are seeing this is the first time that India also have something similar capability. We have not been affected, which means we have emerged as a defense superpower. Also, in that sense, we can protect our country. So, from an investor point of view, foreign investor point of view, I think it's a very good message that India is safe from that extent. I don't think we should be bothered too much about it. I think army is doing whatever they can.
No, Sandeep, and I think we are. Sandeep, absolutely. And I think that last point is really the crux of what you were trying to say, which is the defenses are very strong, as I think has been demonstrated over the last 2 days. And as citizens, we're all proud that this needs to be done. It has been done. But as someone who's an analyst, first and foremost, how do you see this progress in your assessment from here and implications for markets? Go on.
See, first of all, if I look at from our own, except there could be noise, could be there maybe for a few more days. Once it starts, it takes some time to de-escalate. It's not going to happen in the next two hours. It will de-escalate completely. So it will take some time. The good news is there is no casualty, no impact on India, which is very constructive for the market, that we have not been impacted. Okay, what as a like everybody is doing their duty. I say as market participant, I will advise all our investors not to get panic. This is a great opportunity for whatever reason. If market opens weak, it's a buying opportunity, and that's the way we should support our country by doing our bit of it. So as a market participant, what we can do, I would like to participate, since entire mutual fund industry is sitting on a very large amount of cash. It's a great opportunity to participate and showcase a small contribution from our side in the larger interest. That's the way I will define this moment.
Very, very interesting perspective, Sandeep. We asked this to Nilesh Shah as well of Kotak Mutual Fund.
Yeah.
And we were discussing that firepower with him earlier. But he also had an interesting view. He said that we don't want to give easy exits to any foreign investor, anyone, any seller at this point in time. You know what? Just allow us 2-3 minutes. We'll quickly take stock of the rupee markets as well. And then we want to take this discussion forward with you. Let's get in Lata to talk about how the rupee is poised, because yesterday we saw that sharp drop, 1% lower. Lata, and the situation has only gotten sort of more tense since the market closed yesterday.
Well, actually, it's more a trader activity. It was not as if there were foreign funds coming in and buying dollars and exiting the country. This was more because people were already pretty short dollar. Let's remember earlier this week, the dollar was seriously beaten down versus all Asian currencies. It was a 10% fall it saw versus the Taiwanese dollar. On that day, the rupee also went to 83.48, if you remember, at one point in time. It ended sub 84. So it's a very, very short dollar position in the market. And therefore, from the NDF market, there was this move to, cover some short positions. Actually, the Reserve Bank also was buying dollars earlier in the day for its own reasons, just stocking up. And this came along, this dollar correction. The context is that dollar is weak. Although overnight, because of the US-UK deal, the dollar has gotten slightly expensive. The dollar is basically on the back foot vis-a-vis Asian currencies, and therefore the expectation in the market is that, it strengthens to 84 on a good day. Now it may weaken max to 87 because there is too much of short dollar positions in the market. Unlikely that the dollar is going to strengthen much. 87 is seen as the upper limit at this point in time. In the bond market as well, just in the last hour of trade, as we saw the escalation news, border news coming in, you did see yields rise by 5 basis points. Whether you took the old 10-year or the new 10-year, there was a 5 basis point jump. But it won't go beyond 6.45 on the 10-year. That's the market expectation, because you're going to get the inflation number tomorrow, and that is 3.3 in April. So there is no way you're going to see yields jump much. These are just short positions getting corrected.
Okay, but we have to watch out for this because the dollar is at a 1-month high. The dollar index today at 100.65 is the highest we've seen since early April. So
first deal, no? US-UK deal.
Exactly. So there is the strength in the dollar, and then there is our own situation. So let's watch out for the rupee. Take a quick break. On that note, back with more in just a bit. Okay, the pre-open rates are trickling in. The market is now settling down. The first rate was a gap down 1,000 points in the Nifty. Now it's about 550 points, and it's still very early in the pre-open session. So let's see where this settles, because the GIFT Nifty was indicating about a 300 points sort of a down start. Right now, this is about 500. Let's give it those 15 minutes to settle. Still in conversation with Sandeep Tandon. Sandeep, my question is whether at all. I mean, when foreign investors look at this market, typically, I don't think geopolitical risk premium was something that was being ascribed to India. Do you see that happening now? Could that be a bit of a near-term change at all?
So I think if you look at an absolute basis, you may get some answers. But I think the way I look at on relative basis, globally, geopolitical tension has been escalating for a while. So it's not something new phenomena we are seeing only uniquely to or specific to India. So I think overall geopolitical volatility has been higher. If you look at the war cycle, also give you some sense. So I think we have to live with this phenomena. It's not something only happening in India and then one should, a foreigner will be very skeptical. In fact, I will say, given the economic concerns which we have, India is in a very unique situation, okay, on a relative basis, where a lot of money is now getting shifted from US to India, or even Europe has pulled out very substantial large money from US market and is coming to India and Asia-centric emerging market, because purely the risk appetite for the US market and developed market has peaked out. And in where Asia-centric emerging market is on the lower side, so logically money flow will shift. And this is something phenomena we have been talking about, that in 2025 decoupling process will start. We were early to talk about this thesis, and last month we have written the decoupling process has already begun. India is a very safety zone, given the turmoil which we are seeing, not the geopolitical, but overall tariff-related challenges which are there related to recession or the currency market, yields market. All the data points are saying India is in a very safe situation. Look at the same FIs who have been seller for nearly for last many quarters are now forced to participate. It's not something the Indian market has become very attractive, very cheap, and market has corrected. So they are coming back. They are forced to come back purely from a safety perspective. Okay, so I think with this background, I will look at this could be few days phenomena, and sometime when you get these opportunity, we get into debate. One should wait. One should be very cautious. These are great buying moments, and historically, if you go back and check, whenever something like this happen, as long the Indian macro looks nice, which is the case right now, also both on absolute basis and relative basis, we are in a unique situation. So I think I will advise one should look for a buying opportunity. I'm not in a camp saying that we should not allow FIs to give them exit. Rather, I will take that opportunity to take them their holdings at the lower prices. That's the way we should do at this moment.
All right. Hi, Sandeep. First of all, congratulations on getting the license approval from SEBI.
Thanks,
so
Nigel.
Well done to you as well as your team. A couple of quick points before we let you go. What are the current cash levels that y'all are sitting on? And also, if you could give us the top sector you'll be looking at. As you said, for the next few days, we could get that bit of a buying opportunity. So what would be the top sector on your radar?
See, right from January, Nigel, we have been talking about India-centric, okay? So our focus has been India-centric, so large infra name, materials name, Indian-centric NBFCs. And apart from these names, we also like on the export perspective, only generic company. I know they have corrected a bit in the recent time because US also don't have any choice, because there's no substitute for India for the generic opportunity. So I think generic is also area where I'm extremely bullish. Is the one sector which we are overweight as compared to other exports, and textile also, which we have built position in last few months. So but again, the sector is very small. So we like larger infra names, NBFC space, insurance as a space. If I have to look at hospitality as a space, these are the area which we think we have relatively biases towards long side, and we are significantly overweight in these names.
Okay, all right, Sandeep, really appreciate you joining us on a very, very important morning. Thanks very much. And yes, like you, we also pray that our brave hearts remain safe and, as always, emerge victorious in all situations. Thank you for joining in today. Okay, so once again, quick check on the pre-open, and let's get to our technical experts. It's stabilizing even more. Now the Nifty is down about 350 odd points. That's the way this is playing out. Let's actually, before we talk stocks, let's straight away get to Mitesh as well as Shrikant Chauhan. Good morning to both of you gentlemen. Mitesh, so bracing for that gap down, what would your advice be to traders?
Good morning, Sumi. So, been maintaining this that we will basically be ranged with 24,500 as the near-term ceiling and around 24,000, or in the worst-case scenario, 23,850 as the lower end of the range. With this gap down, we are likely to open at the lower end of the range. Now, I would not rush into buying immediately, but the idea is that in case we don't see follow-through below 23,850, 870 zones, that is the time when I'll take, a stop a few points below the opening low and then attempt a long. But as I said, I think this still looks like a market which will consolidate for some more time before there is a chance of breaking on the upside. So I hold that, I maintain that view.
Okay, I think it's settling down much more now, right? 23,935, and the final close that we saw yesterday, the adjusted close, was above 24,198. It seems far away now, but let's see if by close we're able to come up above it. We intraday broke that low, that is 24,198. That's on the Nifty. I think we also have, Mitesh, good morning. Shrikant is also with us. Shrikant, good morning. What's your sense? How would you, your views on the indices first?
Good morning, Prashant. Good morning, Surabhi and everyone. I think, yes, what Mitesh said is we are also of the same view that in case if we see the market is opening close to this 23,900, 850 levels, then there we need to focus more on the stocks because to take specific position on index at this level where the, I'm to say, there is good amount of put writing is lined up. In case if we see the market is dropping below 23,800, then we could see further more unwinding of positions. So in that case, the market may even fall to 23,500. So it is better to be more stock specific at the beginning instead of taking any specific bait on the index. And in case if we see the market is again moving back to the levels of 24,200, then there we should look for reducing some positions because this is certainly going to increase some uncertainty in the market and it will keep the market volatile.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's quickly get to stock ideas as well. I'll start with you, Mitesh.
Yeah. I have a mix of buys and sells. On the buying side, we'll attempt a long on Biocon with a stop at 327.5 for targets of 348. Similarly, Tata Motors is a buy with a stop below 669 for targets of 710. On the selling side, after a good rally, Chambal Fertilizers is showing a sign of profit booking. So keep a stop at 702, look for targets of 670. And Adani Green is a sell with a stop at 900 for targets of 840 to about 835.
Thanks for that, Mitesh. Shrikant, coming across to you. What about your picks?
Good morning, Nigel. Yeah, Tata Motor looks really good. If it is opening around 665, 670, then it's an opportunity to create or to take long position in the stock. We can keep a stop loss at 640 for the same. Take a positional bait because the stock is reversing on monthly and quarterly basis, which is really positive for the stock. We also like a few defense stocks, but in that Bharat Electronics looks really good. It is much better in terms of relative performance. It is around 310, 305 sort of levels. Around this level, if we see the stock is trading, then there take a contra bit of going long. Keep a stop loss at 295. Again, we can see the levels of 330, 325 in the near term.
Got it. Okay. All right. Mitesh, coming back to you, the only stock on the Nifty that's mildly in the green by 0.2% is L&T because of the good numbers. On the charts, how is that stock looking? Because you need to look at a couple of heavyweights if the Nifty needs to fight back from today's trading session. So the levels you're looking at.
So, Nigel, I think, I'm looking at 33.70-75 as the key level for L&T. In fact, last week's high was around 33.76 and this week's high was around 33.66. But once we get a move about 33.75-80, I think I would expect a strong up move over here, which could see the stock head towards 34.90, 3,500 to begin with, and then eventually even higher levels.
Okay, all right. I think, Mitesh, thank you very much for that. Shrikant, thank you very much for running us through your trades as well in terms of what you'd like them to do, viewers to do. L&T is what we want to focus on next. Vivek is here to recap the numbers. Vivek, numbers, at the core of it, strong numbers?
At the core of it, only looking at Q4,
largely in line, maybe a slight miss even. But what is it that the market will look forward to? Market will look forward to what is it the company said as far as FY26 guidance is concerned. Let's quickly do a guidance check, number one, of FY25 and what is it that the company is giving for FY26. FY25, they gave a top-line growth guidance of 15%. The consolidated top line as per the presentation has grown 18%, calculated grown 16%. So it's a clean beat as far as top lines are concerned. Order inflow guidance that the company had given was at close to 10%. They revised it saying at the end of Q3 saying it will be 10% plus. It's a very good beat. 18% year-on-year growth as far as order inflow is concerned. This is for FY25. And when you're talking about the order book at the end of FY25 stands very, very strong at 5.79 trillion rupees or 5.79 lakh crore. FY26. Now, this is something that has actually positively surprised the street. Top line growth seen at 15%. Core margin guidance seen improving to 8.5% from 8.3% that the company managed to deliver in FY25. Order inflow prospects on a very high base, both of FY24, on which the company grew 18% on FY25. On top of that, they are seeing order inflow guidance of close to 10%. What is driving this optimism? It's largely due to the fact that the company says that the order prospect pipeline now stands at 19 lakh crore. So the domestic ordering prospects is at 7 lakh crore. Clearly, majority ordering is going to be coming in from the international book, and where they see a prospect pipeline of close to 12 lakh crore. So overall, a good set of numbers, and the commentary, especially as far as the guidance is concerned for FY26, is something that the street clearly will like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Vivek, thank you very much for that. Auto stocks, Sudarshan has been telling us about Tata Motors for the last 2 days. The US-UK deal getting done and some detail on auto tariffs coming through as well. So take it away.
So it's a mixed outcome of the agreement. Both the countries, US and UK, have unveiled a trade agreement. Nothing was signed in the press conference that both the countries had yesterday. And in the conference, Donald Trump has said that final details are being written up, and in the coming weeks, we'll have it all very conclusive. So ahead of the 25% tariff that US President had announced, and it was effective in April, on passenger vehicles, tariff was 2.5% and it was increased to 25%. But now yesterday, it was told that up to imports of 1 lakh vehicles, tax rate would be 10%. So it can be taken positively. But the negative part is earlier to 25% on passenger vehicles, tax rate was 2.5%. So yes, cost will increase, but it's better than the 25% that government had imposed last month. And also, we'll have to see going forward what is the timeline of implementation, because nothing has been announced so far.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thank you very much, Sud, for that. Of course, I mean, as we start it right now in about 60 seconds or so, it's going to be all down. And then we really sort of parse through things, and things will happen through the course of the day with single stocks, individual things, etc. And we'll keep bringing all of that to you. So what do we have? Just coming up with the market open, it's about 300 points lower, a little over 1%. The Nifty Bank is down about 1.4. So price is starting to move now. 23,974 on the Nifty, 53,656 on the Nifty Bank. And already I think there is a bit of a recovery. But this is initial, I mean, very, very initial. Remember, there was a sharp sell-off into close yesterday. So there will be those positions which get recalibrated as we start. And then, a trend, not necessarily, but I mean, a more firmer kind of trend emerges after the opening adjustments. So 170 odd points lower on the Nifty is what you have. You've got 3 names in the green, everything else in the red. That's the Nifty scorecard for you. The heat map, Titan, BEL and L&T are the 3 names which are up. Only 3 out of the 50. Surabhi.
It's actually, I'll start with the defense names because a lot of them have opened out positive. Look at Hindustan Aeronautics, look at Paras Defense, look at BEL. Let me pull up Zen Technologies as well. Zen is up about 4.5%, major player in drone technology. We'll get Bharat Forge. So this is the sentiment play. This is not just sentiment, it's the reality play as well. These companies are big defense suppliers, all of them. So these are stocks on the upside.
Baba Kalyani yesterday told us that, I think that they are a defense maker.
Yes.
Baba Kalyani told us that their team has been called to Delhi next week.
Yeah.
And the question was in response to if the government is issuing an advisory to increase procurement, etc. I think it's a broader kind of a thing. I mean, that interview was widely circulated.
Yeah.
So just context for this move.
Absolutely. So defense definitely in green. The rest of the market is recovering actually quite fast. I mean, from a dip of over 230 odd points, It's less than 200 points. So I'll actually start with stocks that are moving higher. Titan, I just saw bounce in positive territory. Yes, Titan's up about 3%. L&T is up about 2.5%. So those are the early movers. BEL, of course, on the Nifty is already in green territory. But, you know, a lot of stocks are recovering. In fact, if I talk about the downside, then the weakest names are Power Grid, Eternal, Coal India, Geo Financial Services. But all of them sharply off the lows. And the ones, look at Mahindra and Mahindra as well. Again, a major supplier. They're, you know, a lot of their commercial vehicles, etc. You know, also on the upside for the time being. Then you have Kotak Mahindra Bank. These are some of the other names. Shriram Finance, IndusInd Bank, a lot of the financials on the recovery side as well. 180 down on the Nifty at least, Nigel.
Besides the markets, I think the most important cue will be the India VIX. It's perked up another 5.5% or thereabouts. Now it's crossed the 22-odd mark. I think keep an eye out on that one. If that cools off substantially from the highs of the day, well, then in fact, the bulls will be feeling very, very good. So I think that's the index should really track. In the last 15 trading sessions, this index has gone up by more than 25%. That's the kind of bounce we have seen on a low base. So the India VIX, keep it on your radar. Well, stocks that I'm looking at, Union Bank, one of the few winners in today's trading session. So that's up close to 2.5%, and that's moving on rather large volumes. Z, valuation comfort, numbers look pretty okay. The stock, in fact, is up close to 0.5%. The other few names that came on the radar, I think Mayur Uniquoters, that stock, in fact, has opened with some gain, and there are very few stocks that are trading well in the green. So I just want to highlight that one. It's up close to around 12.5%. Big up move is what we're seeing on Mayur Uniquoters, and Zentech and Paras Defense as well. Both of them have opened up higher in today's trading session. The other ones that are losing, well, Suzlon is under some pressure, so that stock is falling on rather large volumes. You have Ola Electric as well, that's down another 2%. Eternal is down close to around 2%. But as we speak, the markets have seen a good recovery from the low point of the day. We're down only around 120 points or thereabouts. Keep in mind, there'll be a clearing holiday, a settlement holiday on Monday. And, parts of India like Delhi will be shut as well. So some of the stock that you purchased today, you'll not be able to sell it on Monday. In fact, you'll be able to sell it only on Tuesday. So keep that in mind. It's a settlement order, a holiday, not a trading holiday. So currency markets as well will be shut. So just keep that in mind when you're buying stocks today, that some of them you'll be able to sell only on Tuesday.
All right, no, absolutely. So 140 points lower, 24,130. And I think, the fact that we've not seen, and this is something we were highlighting in the morning as well, all of the sort of attacks and what we neutralized in terms of the escalation happened at night. Since then, and we had reporters with us from Jammu, etc., areas and, places where these attacks were attempted on. So I think that perhaps also something worth taking note of. So from being down 350, we're down about 150 odd points. 24,110 is where we are at. The number is 24,198. We're still away from it. Well, let's see if you're able to close that gap. L&T is the biggest volume-led gainer. Now, we were just discussing with Vivek. Core numbers are not bad. 34.50 on L&T. It's a 4% pop which is coming through. And I think we got so many others. Surabhi was talking about the defense names, HAL, BEL, BDL, GRSE, that is Garden Reach, and so on and so forth. Bharat Forge is up about 1%. I was talking about how we had the management, Mr. Baba Kalyani with us. Idea Forge is up 8%. Zentech is up 5%. So these are essentially drone makers. Zentech, anti-drone. Idea Forge is a drone maker. Zentech, of course, has gotten into drones as well now. So it's a defense play, really, which is coming through. Which is very much in focus at this point. Lots of stuff on the downside as well. On the top of the list is Motilal Oswal, which is down 3%. But I have to say, on the downside, it's one way. 200 stocks are higher and 2,000 stocks are down. 10:1 on the way down. But there are no volumes on the way down. All the volume is with these 200 odd names. Not all 200, but basically there's no volume on the downside, even though many are opening. Most are opening lower if I look at the overall market breadth. Vineet Sambre is with us, Head of Equities at DSP Mutual Fund. Vineet, good morning. Good to have you with us here. Thank you for your time. Prashant this side. Your thoughts, Vineet, on where we go from here. And there is, of course, the border issue that we've been talking about with so many experts, both military and, of course, market participants as well. What's the view within DSP from here?
So, Prashant, definitely, I think we are actually moving from one uncertain factor to maybe another uncertain factor. And there are, I think, today multiple things to sort of worry about. I would say that most important aspect from the equities viewpoint and slightly from a medium-term viewpoint to reduce the noise what we are having right now is the core earnings of the companies. And there, if we look at the result which are sort of coming up, we are not getting any great sense of growth sort of recovering back. We are I mean, this was expected as well. We are at single digit kind of growth rates, as far as earnings are concerned for most of the companies. And anyways, we have companies maybe also not giving out great commentaries as of now because the environment is a bit uncertain. So I would say that from our viewpoint, we are slightly looking at more medium term, trying to think beyond all these events. Maybe once we have the US tariff issues also behind us, this war related uncertainties behind us, and anyways, a low base of earnings would have got formed over the course of last 3 or 4 quarters. Maybe from there, hopefully, we should be thinking about growth. So I would say that from our viewpoint, we sort of continue the kind of a cautious stance in the near term. And would say that maybe these volatile times should be sort of used more to build equities more gradually rather than getting on an aggressive basis. And definitely the time horizons one should have in mind is really beyond 2, 3, 4 years, not having a very short-term time horizons in mind before investing.
Okay, got it, Vineet. Morning, thank you very much for joining in. So you're saying, first of all, elongate your investment horizon at least 3, 4 years, if not more. And you're saying that maybe not the best time to go in lump sum. Take that point on board. Vineet, how do you look at the valuation of defense stocks? They have everything going in terms of, order books, definitely sentiment, the Make in India drive. So everything is positive. We just need to figure out if valuations and earnings visibility are actually somewhat in sync. What are your thoughts?
So I think particularly as far as the defense stocks are concerned, in terms of valuations, may not be absolutely reasonable or cheap, so to say, because anyways we have some kind of beyond fundamentals. The narratives have actually seen the price reacting from the lows, and maybe not exactly very comfortable in terms of the valuations. And the other aspect, if you generally think about the defense stocks, is that it runs with the order book inflows and sentiments, which generally assumption is that with whatever is going around should be positive, and hence maybe the stock price could continue to outperform in the near term. But we have seen for some of these companies, the execution cycle tends to remain pretty long. And from that perspective, the conversion of these order book coming into the earnings will be a matter of time. And once this narrative is behind us, and then people start looking at the core fundamentals, I mean, which is where the reality sort of hits. So I think the important point is that if somebody owns defense stocks in the portfolio, maybe good to ride as of now with the sentiments at the moment. But at certain price point, one should be thinking of maybe taking money off as well because of the long-term execution related challenges which these companies keep facing. Challenges, or maybe the slower rate of execution, what I wanted to sort of say.
All right. Hi, Vineet. Good morning. In fact, good to see you, Vin. Vineet, give us a couple of your sectoral calls. I recall that you had told us last time around that consumption is something you expect to pick up, and I think you'll have a fair bit of exposure out there. If you could tell us, as a percentage of the money you're managing, how much is consumption? And also, what do you like from the consumption basket?
Yeah, so actually, roughly between different funds, we'll have a consumption between 20-25 odd percent exposure. And, when I say consumption broadly, these are largely on the side of discretionary. As of now, we have exposure to the auto ancillary, some of the retail companies, the textile kind of businesses is part of them. QSR is also part of our consumption sort of basket. And I think the thesis is pretty clear in my mind as of now that consumption has been low in the low cycle for the last couple of years. Maybe the government has pivoted in terms of shifting the focus to consumption with so many state elections coming up, I think the welfare kind of things are going to continue. Plus the tax benefit. I think all these things should add up, and eventually, whenever the pay commission happens, I mean, those will only add. So I believe in the consumption story. I believe that it's at the low cycle. On the low cycle, the valuations may not exactly look absolutely cheap or reasonable, but I would say that as the business matrix starts performing, that's where maybe we'll start seeing the benefits. And hopefully, the assessment as of now is that maybe the second half should turn out to be better for some of these consumer discretionary companies as such.
Vinit, quickly, if you have a view on pharma, it's still evolving, the situation, but we saw that executive order on onshoring of pharma manufacturing, directions from US FDA on inspection on as far as foreign plants are concerned, more stricter, more costlier, unannounced. Any thoughts as a fund? What's your view?
Yeah, so see, I think it is slightly uncertain as of now with, let's say, especially the companies which are exports facing, and what exactly comes out from the US market is definitely going to have a sentimental kind of an impact. But I would say more long term, I believe the core competencies which are required for supplying drugs, which is your chemistry skills, your cost competitiveness, I think those we have, and I would believe that eventually. This is what is going to matter. If you are useful to your customers and are able to produce at relatively cheaper price, I think that should eventually help. So maybe we go through some bit of that volatility, but I think in the long term, this is one sector which should definitely look good. And just remember that we are also going to go through this aging population kind of environment where today we have around, let's say, 9 to 10 crore individuals above 60 years, which are going to go beyond 14, 15 crores, and the requirement of medicines is only going to increase. So I think this is a more linear kind of a story as far as the segment is concerned. Companies do deliver decent ROCs. And beyond pharmaceutical, I would say there are other segments within the broader healthcare, like hospitals, diagnostics, where anyways there are opportunities. Maybe the only way to sort of deal with the higher valuations are maybe in bad time period should be the time to sort of add on to some of these long-term businesses is my thought.
All right, Vineet, thank you for all that perspective. We'll leave it there on that note today.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining in, and you have a good day. Market's still down about 170 points. Remember, at some point this morning, we are expecting that briefing from the MEA as well. And before we get to that, let's quickly address some of the Q4 earnings that have come in the last 24 hours. Canara Bank is the next one that's on our radar. The bank's profit has surged, asset quality has improved, but slippages remain slightly elevated. Margins, like with a lot of other banks year on year, they're under a bit of pressure. Satyanarayana Raju, MD and CEO at Canara Bank, is with us. Sir, good morning. Thank you very much for joining in. So I just want to quickly start with the basics. In the fourth quarter, the advances growth has been about 11%. So let's first talk about what is the kind of business growth that you're expecting in FY26 as a whole.
When our GDP projections are growth projections are around 6.25 to 6.5 at this moment, generally we expect that the 10 to 11% credit growth is reasonable, and of course the expectation as against the expectation market expectations of 12%, but we give a guidance of 10 to 11%. Always you remember that earlier also when we are given 10%, our achievement was 11.74%. We give little conservative on that advances side or even business side. Any figures guidance we give little conservative, but our achievements will be always more than what we are given. So at this moment, what we are given the guidance is 10 to 11% for the next financial year.
That's okay. So that's on advances. 11% is what you're expecting this year. So this margin pressure that we saw in the fourth quarter, your NIMs came down to 2.73 versus over 3%. In the same quarter last year. Has the worst of it played out, or do you expect more pressure ahead till your deposits get repriced lower?
I request you to go through that our NIM as on December. Our NIM as on December, it is a 2.71. But whereas in the March we could recover a little bit and it is improved to 2.73. That shows that how effectively we could manage that the cost of the deposits during the last quarter. So generally, if you see that the 2.71 to 2.73 in March, you are very much aware that it has gone to the peak, the cost of deposit in all the banks because of high deposit cost in the March. But we could very well manage and we could control our cost of deposit at 5.74. If you look at that from June 24, we were at 5.70, but when it comes for that March, it is 5.74. Hardly it is only 4 basis point increase is there in the cost of deposit. If you look at the yield on advances, we were at 8.66 in the June and March it is 8.83. Almost 17 basis point increase is there in yield on advances. This control we could do it because in the fourth quarter we focused more on retail deposits instead of going behind the competition in the bulk and CD. And that's what actually yesterday also I shared with that. We have, as a team, entire Canara Bank, we have taken a personal call that each staff has to canvass 10 lakhs retail deposits either in the CASA, and that campaign has went very well and we garnered almost 17,000 crores. That's why up to December our deposit growth was little sluggish at 8%, but when concluded that the fourth quarter, our total cumulative growth is almost 11.01.
Okay, all right. Hi, sir. Good morning and good to see you in. Give us an outlook on the slippages then. That as well as perked up a little bit in the past quarter to around 2,700 crores. So if you could tell us what is the guidance going ahead and also fill us in with your credit cost guidance for the year.
Here also I would like to request you to go through that. Actually the slippage is not on the quarter on quarter. Actually the March quarter is, you should be aware that the entire banking branches will be audited and the system driven slippages, that's in the remaining 3 quarters it will happen. But when it comes for that March, local auditors, the branch auditors are those people on technical grounds also, they may ask us to pass some MOCs. If you compare that to March 24, our slippages are 3,400. But March 25, the slippages even after the complete audit of all the branches by the external auditors, it is only 2,700. There is a reduction of 700. From December to March, I expect that, yes, I accept that there is a 200 crores, 250 crores slippage is there. But these are all the 250 crores is only on the technical grounds. In the branches, there what the MOCs they are passed by the external auditors in the MSME. Earlier, our MSME slippage was only 1,000. Now, March it is 1,250. Otherwise, I didn't see anything that there is a concern in any of our RAM sector or even the corporate sector. The next question what you asked is, the question you asked about that the credit cost. The credit cost, if actually speaking, it's much low. But what the decision we have taken last year, 2 years back, that our PCR should be improved, because when we compare to the peer banks, our PCR is comparatively low. We were at actually 87 in the March 23. So we want to meet that 95%, which generally the all banks, peer banks are comfortably placed at that. That journey is moving towards that improving our PCR. In the last just concluded year itself, our PCR has improved 360 basis points. By adding that means the additional provision we are doing on existing NPA accounts, that additional provisioning is included in the credit cost. Even then, we have come below the 1% and we are reported at 0.9%, and that guidance also we are given conservatively at 0.9, but the actual credit cost will be much low. The reason behind the guidance why we are given at 0.90 is also still we are aiming to move PCR towards the 95.
Okay, all right. So given the everything on board, I think the ROA for the last year was around 1.1%. What could the guidance be on that number for this year?
So that's also actually the December quarter, and if you see that the March quarter, our return on average asset is almost 1.25. That's December it is 1.09 and the March quarter it is 1.25. We have given a guidance of 1.05. Only keeping the pressure on that NIMs, whatever it is there, if at all anything is there in the first quarter or second quarter, but definitely our return on asset will be much better than what we have given the guidance of 1.05.
Got that. Just one quick point, Mr. Raju. Good morning, Prashant here. Across segments, I mean, I think you provided a lot of detailed guidance here. Across segments, do you expect, in terms of credit growth, loan growth, do you expect at the margin any acceleration at all as we get into Q2, Q3 and beyond? There are these tax cuts, etc., which are maybe again incrementally expected to spur consumption a little bit. Consumption has been quite weak. Just your thoughts, sir.
No, actually, sir, when now the regulator has started reducing that repo rate, when the pricing interest rates comes down, naturally it helps in increasing the consumption. And the RAM sector, definitely it will increase. When the RAM sector, if it is picking up, automatically the demand from the corporate sector also will improve. So I see that since already 2 times the regulator has reduced that rate, and we are expecting that another 1 or 2 cuts will be there in the next 2 or 3 MPCs, whatever it's the monetary policy decisions. So in that grade, the second quarter and third quarter onwards, I see that uptick in the credit offtake. That's the reason we are given, last time we are given conservatively at 10%, the market reacted that we are conservative, but ultimately the credit growth was at what we have achieved, that 12%, near to that 12%. But this time we are given in the anticipation of that second, third, fourth quarter uptick in the growth, overall GDP and the demand for the credit, we are given little higher, that 10% to 11%.
Yeah, no, absolutely. On gold specifically, Mr. Raju, there was that RBI directive as well, which came through, and many actually said that it was not so much directed towards the pure gold lenders like Muthoot and Manappuram, etc., but to banks who had really become very big and grown very fast in that segment. Any thoughts there?
No, I don't think that it is targeting for the banks and all, because we are the highest lender in the agriculture. But we can predict what are the concerns expressed by the regulator in advance. And we have taken some corrective steps in the last 2 years also. The only thing was that is actually primary security and collateral security. That is the only issue it is coming in that direction. And still it is a draft guidelines, and the clarifications they sought from the feedback from all the banks, we also have given on that. But the 1 year back itself, we have stopped lending the gold against agriculture in metropolitan cities. But to compensate that, we introduced a consumption loan against the gold loan in the metropolitan and all the places all over India. That has helped in increasing that. We are not lost the business in the gold. Only thing, it is only a moving from the agriculture classification to non-agriculture or the retail credit. Otherwise, last year also our growth is almost 19%. And this year we are expecting that we will grow around 15 to 16%.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a classification issue, as you're saying. Thank you very much for joining us and running us through that perspective. It's really helpful. Thanks indeed for joining us. That's the management of Canara Bank with some sort of thoughts on the business per se. 190 points lower on the Nifty is what you have, 24,080. And by the way, it's still quite incredible. It's almost 10:1 declines to advances ratio, but there is no volume on the downside. Very, very little volume on the downside, Nigel. But we have the Titan management. We were just talking about gold with the bank, but now we have Titan.
Well, that's right. Titan's a stock that's glittering in trade. The numbers look quite good, and we want to understand what's the way ahead. So first, to help us out with that, we have Mr. Ashok Santalia, the CFO at Titan. Hi, sir. Good morning. Congratulations on a solid set of numbers, first of all. But the interesting part will be, what can you guide us for the way ahead? Let's focus on the larger segment, the jewelry business first. What kind of a growth number, revenue growth number, are you looking at for the entire of FY26, given that we have high number of wedding dates? So if you could tell us about that on the growth. And also, what are the triggers with regard to the margins going ahead? Because higher sales of gold, lower making charges, and lower studded share, all of them are margin dilutive, right? So what can you guide us on that front?
So thank you very much, Nigel. I think it has been a pretty satisfying quarter and year just gone by. While there have been many external challenges, which continue to be there and sometimes get aggravated. But as far as going forward and what we can see today, looks like we can deliver 15 to 20% growth number for FY26. The year started pretty well. April had ended with Akshaya Tritiya Day, and we were quite satisfied with the performance. And as far as margin is concerned, we are saying that we will endeavor to maintain 11 to 11.5% jewelry operating profit margin, and that's the guidance for the time being.
So 11 to 11.5% jewelry business margins with growth of around 15 to around 20%.
Right.
We got that on board. What about studded share as a percentage of the mix? I recall earlier it had gone up to, I think it was moving towards mid-30s, then it came down to mid-20s. For this year, what do you see it stabilizing at?
You see, that's something which we strive to do. Studded, so there are teams responsible for studded jewelry growth, and they continue to work with new designs, collections, etc. there. And the gold also similarly, teams, merchandising teams, design team work on that. So it is more for us an outcome. Both segments are growing, and actually the buyer growth in studded this time was better because of a very high price and of gold. Consumer sentiment was slightly lower, while the investment-led buying in gold was seen more, where the coins and low making charges products were in greater demand. But we think that should change as the wedding days are there, and FY26 as a whole has a better wedding days compared to FY25. We believe once the price people get settled around the price level, they will come back to adornment and not investment for the gold jewelry.
Adornment, not investment. That's well put, Mr. Santale. Good morning.
Yeah.
31st of December last year, these are quarter-ended prices. Gold was 80,000. Okay. 31st March this year, price was 91,000. As of yesterday, this morning, now basically, prices are about 1 lakh.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as you said, people got to get used to, 1 lakh for 10 grams.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's an adjustment thing. But do you think it'll hurt in a more durable way consumer demand at these prices? And by the way, the forecasts are that given the overall situation, because the buying is not coming from retail. I mean, central banks around the world are big buyers. I put out a piece on that earlier. And they are largely price insensitive buyers.
Right.
So the price of the metal keeps going up. But what about consumer, which is what you and I are talking about?
So you see, consumer, we have earlier also talked, Prashant, that they come with their rupee budget. And as a jeweler, it is our responsibility actually to still maintain some of those price points and make lightweight, more attractive jewelry. The other stuff which we have started doing, and we see more acceptance by the customer, that you move from 22 carat to 18 carat and 14 carat and create very, very beautiful, light, modern jewelry in gold. CaratLane even did a 9-carat experimentation with the diamond-studded jewelry. So these are the ways where you can bring the price points affordable and still make as beautiful jewelry which was available earlier. So I think both way, consumers' love for gold is not going to go away. It is the rupee budget with which they play and stretch it a little bit. But as a jeweler, it is our responsibility to continue to maintain those price points.
Mr. Sonthalia, sir, morning. This 15 to 20% growth that you spoke of in the jewelry business, is that going to be driven more by studded then, given the elevated gold prices? Will it be more driven by, like you said, it's coins that are doing better? And on CaratLane specifically, the growth rates there have slowed down. So just give us an outlook on CaratLane individually.
So CaratLane has now coming to a scale where expecting 35-40% kind of number would not be right. I think they are settling around 25% number and can be sometime better, couple of percentage point on top of that or a couple of percentage point here. But CaratLane is still doing very well in terms of its customer value proposition. And as I said, experimenting with a lot of new stuff which are getting very popular in terms of, they have a postcard where you can embed your video message with the jewelry, and that has got a very, very popular support and, that way. Yeah.
So 25% you're saying is basically the new normal or the now normal growth rate expected for CaratLane.
Yeah.
I also want to talk to you about the other businesses. I mean, if gold prices and estimates go up to $4,000 on gold. So if gold prices remain elevated, just want to understand if the other businesses, whether it's eyewear, whether it's Taneira, whether investors can expect those businesses to fire up. Because even for Taneira, I mean, it's been sort of a stop and start situation. Can you just give us an outlook on the other businesses, growth, margins? What are you expecting? Whether they can make up, I'm talking about now top line, blended top line growth for the company, if at all there's a slowdown in the jewelry business.
So one thing I must clarify, we are never expecting that elevated gold prices will eventually hurt consumer sentiment. It is just consumers to get used to the new level. And, like 1 lakh seems to be a psychological barrier, but prices, we have seen in our lifetime prices, 4,000 also, and 10,000, 12,000. And every level we thought that gold is expensive, but it kept its march and now has hit 1 lakh crore. So
I can assure you, I agree. But the rise in incomes is not, you got to,
Sir, it hurts the pocket.
It's psychological, but it's also real.
I agree, Prashant. I am not trying to say that it did affect consumer sentiment. As we also said, the buyer growth has been almost flat in gold jewelry. It is mostly studded where we saw buyer growth. But the point is that other businesses in financial term will never able to match jewelry business, where the average ticket size is say 1,50,000 versus 5,000, 7,000 kind of prices.
No, absolutely, sir. No, absolutely not saying that. I mean, there's no comparison. Jewelry is the big bread and butter business. What I was talking about was if you could give us some expectations, yearly expectations for Taneira, for eyewear, because sales dropped for Taneira in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, it's not sustaining at a very steady pace of growth, even though the base would be much smaller than the jewelry business. But we're just trying to understand how the other businesses will grow this year for you.
The second large business for after jewelry is the analog watch business for us. And I think that's firing very well, 17, 18% kind of number. It is sustaining for last many quarters. And that's based on premiumization, product innovation, the kind of watches which are coming out of Titan Stable are being kind of welcomed and loved by the consumer. Helios channel, which is a international watches and high-end Titan watches channel for us, is actually growing upward of 30%, 35%, quarter on quarter. So the watch business is in a great shape and doing extremely well. Eye care, if you see quarter 3, quarter 4, now comfortable mid-teen kind of growth number has started delivering. We have spoken about that some strategic changes in terms of collections, in terms of pricing corrections, etc. we are taken in eye care business, and we are seeing result for the last 2 quarters, and we hope that will continue, and rather their growth rate will improve from here instead of coming down. Other businesses, yes, they are small. Fragrance business is doing pretty well. Taneira, while the headline number looks like -4%, but in the previous like-to-like quarter, there were some franchisee stores had opened where the primary sales had happened, and that is how actually secondary sales are in positive territory. So it's early days. I would not say that some of the strategy shift which are being happening in Taneira perhaps will show result in FY26. But overall portfolio-wise, Titan company is becoming better off to my mind, but jewelry continues to grow so fast that the mix is not at all changing.
So for this year, just to sum up what you said, for this year, we can expect the watches business to continue to grow at close to 30%. Eyewear, like you said, mid to high teens, because you were already at 14-15% as the year ended. So mid to high teens. And Taneira and other businesses you're expecting will continue to be growth drivers as well. Got that, sir?
Watches close to 18-20%, Surabhi.
Okay, watches close to 18. Okay, that was Helios you're talking about, 30%.
Yeah.
Overall watches business, 18 to 20%. Got that, sir?
All right, final couple of questions, Mrs. Santalia, before we let you go. Your international business on a small base is growing quite fast.
Yes.
Could you tell us what is the targeted share you're looking at from the international business? And also I wanted to ask you on the interest cost per quarter, I'm guessing because of higher inventory levels, that's why that has perked up, I think, to around 250 crores on a quarterly run rate. That will stay?
Okay, so let me give you answer for international. It's now $200 million plus business, equally distributed between USA and GCC, GCC including Singapore, where we have presence. Growing very well so far, I think 60-70%, doubling almost every year. This year also the plan was quite aggressive for that. But in North America, particularly in America, we are slightly wait and watch mode on our expansion because of a bit uncertainty around tariff on jewelry. But we are very quite hopeful that India and US will arrive at a much more acceptable level of bilateral trade relationship, and then we can further take on. But we are in a wait and watch mode as far as North America is concerned, and is still looking at what expansion plan and when they should get executed. But yeah, 200 million going towards $300 million should be a expectation for us.
By when?
Overall business should also, from profit point of view, Nigel, should break even in FY26 and create some small profit. That's the view on international business. What was your second?
On the interest cost, sir. On the interest cost, I'm thinking because of the higher inventory levels, that's going up a little bit. Now it's clocked around 250 crores. It used to be much lower earlier.
So
will it continue at this rate?
Overall for the full year is about 580 crore, Nigel. Out of that, 240 crore is long-term borrowings, which we did for the Carrot Lane acquisition. So the business-related interest expense is about 300 crore, so 75 crore per quarter. It would remain at this level, not more than that. That is what, while GOL rates have gone up all of a sudden quite a bit, they are settling down, and our hope is that they can settle around the same level.
Okay, all right. Talking about watches, I got a watch recently. After many years, I think about 10 years later, and I got a Titan.
A Titan watch.
I mean, Mr. Santalia, beautiful.
Beautiful. I agree. I visited it as well.
Edge, which was, it was a multi-brand store, but I think the salesperson was really insistent that this is the one to, the best of the lot. And looks beautiful, looks great.
And I must say, and Mr. Sonthalia, thank you so much, sir, for joining in. And as Mr. Sonthalia says, it's just about getting used to the price point, gentlemen. So just suggesting if there are anniversaries, birthdays around the corner, just about used to getting to a lakh. It's all right.
I sense a subtle hint. All right, we'll leave it there, Mr. Sonthalia. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure. And it's good to get you with a perspective on all the businesses which Titan has, not just gold and jewelry. We'll take a quick commercial break here. We're going to come back in just a bit. And Mitesh will be with us with some trading ideas, what's happening in the market. We'll take a look at that as well. More coming up. Okay, welcome back. Things are moving around. The markets, of course, pull back a little bit. I mean, when I say pull back from the highs, because we saw early pullback from the lows, and now we're, I think at the day, not the day's, maybe at the day's lowest point. 230 points is what the Nifty is down by 0.9%. Market breadth is still negative, but once again, as I've been saying since the morning, there's no volume on the downside, which is a point you should remember when you look at look at this 10:1 declines to advances ratio. It's just that motivated buyers maybe are not there, or the buying is in individual names where there are triggers, etc. And in the vast majority, I mean, there's no selling, but there's no buying either. I think that's essentially what's going on at this point. The number one volume-led gainer is Tata Motors, and we were highlighting that name with Sudarshan earlier. It's doing well. It's up 2.5% now. And it's got large volumes, actually the largest volumes on the NSE. I think Sudarshan is with us, and we can go across to him quickly to revisit this one. So over to you.
So Tata Motors is one stock which is getting in a weak session of trade, and it's on the back of the announcement that has come yesterday after the agreement signed between both US and UK. So basically both the countries have unveiled broad outline of a trade agreement, and after that President Trump has said that final details are being written up, and in coming weeks we'll have it all very conclusive. So in the agreement what they have mentioned is that for 1 lakh imports of cars, there will be tariff of 10%. It's lower than what US government had announced in the month of April, that was 25%. But ahead of 25% on passenger vehicles, tariff rate was 2.5%. So it's an increase from 2.5% to 10%. But it has come as a relief because now it's certain that there will be a tariff of 10%. So now it's known, and that's the reason Tata Motors is reacting positively. Also remember, North America is the biggest export market for JLR. It forms almost 70% of its total volumes. And why is it positive for Tata Motors? Because for Tata Motors consolidated revenue, JLR contributes almost 70%. That's the reason you are seeing a big move in, Tata Motors stock today.
Absolutely. 698, almost $700 now. So thank you very much. And of course, who's been on top of that story over the last few days now. Mitesh is with us with what he'd want you to do with the price action so far. Mitesh, just about above 24,000. What should one do?
Prashant, I think, very clearly the decline was immediately bought into. So I still believe that this lower end of the index, around 23,800, 850 will hold. And we might just see markets chop around for some more time. So I think that's the initial feeling which I have on the index. On the stock side, a buy on BDL or Bharat Dynamics looks very interesting. That's one stock which is doing extremely well, good price volume action, good candlestick chart, and the indicator setup is quite good as well. So buy here. Keep a stop below levels of 1520. Look for a target of around 1700 in the next few days. And the other one is Mazgaon Rock. I think another defense name. I would want to see the stock start getting past 2900 and then take a long position over here. It's made a high of 2915. It's retreated from there, but a move about 2900 should suggest that the stock could go and possibly retest levels of 3050, 3100. So buy about 2900, then keep a 50-point stop. What's that?
These textile names were doing very well yesterday, and I think they're up today as well. Names like this KPR Mill. Yesterday, I saw Wellspun Living. I think I'm not sure if that is related to the India-UK FTA, but I saw a very large move yesterday on volumes as well. Gokuldas, of course, has been another winner. Pearl Global is another name which came up yesterday. Anything stand out to you, Mitesh, from this pack?
See, I've not been tracking them, but Gokuldas export is something which on and off I keep checking out. The stock did have a good move for the last 3 days, and then today is giving a pullback. But overall pattern is quite positive. The 200 average is around 938, and that would be an entry point in case you get it around over here. If people are holding, keep a stop around 924, 925, just below that. And I think looking at the weekly and the longer term charts here, I would expect a target in excess of 1100. So it looks good to me.
Oh, absolutely. Got that. Mitesh, we'll come back to you. Thank you very much for joining us with that for now.